Willow? Leo asked, opening the door to see her standing there, a silhouette against the dark. He was completely shocked. What are you doing here? Willow stepped out of the night, her expression placid. The engagement party is being held at the Miller estate, so your uncle invited my family to stay here ahead of time. All right. Leo didn't really know the protocol for these things. Right now, he was just filled with the simple joy of seeing a friendly face. I'm basically a prisoner, Leo said, launching into his grievances. They're using brute force to keep me here. Is there any justice in the world? He paused, then got to the point. You can come and go as you please, right? Yes. Leo's face lit up. Willow, tomorrow, during the ceremony, it's going to be total chaos. Find an excuse to slip out, get your car, and hide me in the trunk. He'd figured it out. His timing had been all wrong. They'd be most vigilant right after capturing him, and the middle of the night was too quiet. A chaotic, crowded party was the perfect cover. Leo, do you really have to leave tomorrow? Willow asked, looking up to meet his eyes. We've already been over this, haven't we? Leo assumed the whole engagement atmosphere was getting to her, making her emotional again. He explained patiently, Willow, I'm not just running to get my memory back. I'm doing it for our future. Do we have a future? We agreed to ditch the whole fiancé thing. If I don't run, I have to follow the patriarch's script and we'll be tied together for life. And if I do succeed in taking over, do you think your family will ever agree to break off the engagement once it's official? The ceremony was more than just a formality. It was an invisible contract, a public declaration. It told the world she was the family's chosen daughter-in-law. A verbal agreement could be torn up by one side, but a formal ceremony, witnessed by both families, that was official. Undoing that would be a nightmare. It wasn't something you could fix with an apology and a bow. You'd need the full consent of the woman's family. Of course, most families would agree to annul it after being publicly jilted. They'd have to save face. But face means nothing when there's a fortune on the line. If Leo secured his position as the Miller heir, did he really think Willow's father, Winston, would care about face? He'd probably hold a knife to his own throat in front of the patriarch and yell, Grandpa Miller, my family has been disgraced. My honor is ruined. I can't go on living. And the next thing you know, they'd be planning a wedding. Leo thought he'd explained all this perfectly clear during their little heart-to-heart date. Willow had seemed so supportive of his plan then, but she didn't answer him. Instead, she walked into the room, looking around at the decor. My dad said this used to be Uncle Rick's house. Don't change the subject. We're talking about something important. They're letting us stay in this house. I don't care who stays here. Can you just help me escape? I'll help you, Willow said, suddenly turning her head. In the lamplight, her beautiful, androgynous features took on a sharper edge. Thank you so much, Willow. Leo pressed his hands together in gratitude. With that settled, he could move on. Willow, we can't mix business with feelings. Since we both agreed to let our connection grow naturally, it's going to be a long process. He was trying to reassure her. He remembered their conversation in the car just a few days ago, how anxious she was for a promise, probably spooked by all the talk of his memory returning. Willow, me promising to break off the engagement in the future is a promise. Don't mix feelings with business. That was Leo's principle. According to his original plan, Willow was just supposed to be a figurehead, a placeholder fiancé. If he weren't trying to build something real with her, he wouldn't be racking his brain trying to figure out how to call this whole thing off. This was dancing on the patriarch's last nerve. But if Willow helped him now, it would score her major points. Even Leo felt a pang of guilt. Not only would she have to attend the engagement party alone tomorrow, but she'd have to help him escape from it. He would definitely owe her for this. You helping me with this. I'll owe you one. I'll make it up to you, I promise. It's what I should do. I'm your future wife. Who else would I help? You've got a strange tone, he noted. Once we're engaged, I'll be your future wife, Willow said with a candid smile, tilting her head. But Leo could sense something was off about her. Did her family say something to her, or was it? He didn't have time to think. He heard the sound of hurried footsteps outside his window. Peeking out, he saw the distant glow of a fire. A fire? How could there be a fire deep in the mountains in the middle of the night? Don't tell me Uncle Rick lit it. A sudden realization dawned on him. He calmly watched the people rushing out of the compound below. Change of plans. Time to move. Leo turned to Willow, his voice serious. Willow, we split up. I'll slip out over the back wall during the chaos. You go get the car. We'll meet at the little pavilion on the back hill. He needed a ride out of the mountains and back to the city. To avoid suspicion at the main gate, they had to act as separately as possible. Willow nodded. Okay. The Miller estate was less a compound and more a small village scattered across the mountainside. Its only real boundary a perimeter fence. Not to keep out thieves, but to keep out wandering wildlife. On this dark and windy night, Leo launched his escape. He was clever about it, not even trying to hide. He strode out brazenly in his role as the young master, yelling for everyone to come out and fight the fire. The security staff couldn't even order him back inside. "Young master, please go back inside. We have emergency protocols for this." "What are you talking about? Haven't you heard that fire and water wait for no man? As a miller, I have to be on the front lines," Leo declared with such righteous conviction that the guards were left speechless. The kid had a point. And so, Leo ran around, sometimes toward the fire, sometimes asking if anyone had a water pump, sometimes borrowing a phone to call 911. Anyone watching would have praised him as a true hero. Right now, that hero was staring at the blaze, inwardly stunned. "Damn, Dad, you really did it. You set the family crypt on fire? That's some real filial piety." The security guards let their guard down, thinking they had truly underestimated the third brother's son. Look at his face, all smudged with soot. This was the kind of man who deserved to be the heir. But at that moment, the third young master had already snuck over to the back fence. He found the gap his dad had told him about, the dog hole. He excitedly crawled halfway through, but what he saw on the other side wasn't freedom. It was a pair of long, slender legs. "Willow, I told you to wait for me at the pavilion." Rick Miller stood with a Zippo in his hand, frowning at the distant glow coming from the family crypt. He wasn't the type to just swallow an insult. His own brother had told him to walk his way out of the mountains, so he was going to start a fire in return. Maybe the chaos would even give Leo a chance to escape. But I haven't even lit it yet. Rick was baffled. Starting a fire in the middle of the night wasn't easy. All he had was a lighter. He needed kindling at the very least. He had just managed to gather a pile of dry branches and was rubbing his hands together when he looked up and saw it. The fire at the crypt was getting bigger. Completely bewildered, Rick was about to head back toward the compound to see what was happening when a black car suddenly pulled up to the nearby pavilion. The driver got out, tossed a line over his shoulder, and took off. "Damn, car trouble again? I'd better go get some help." He didn't even close the door. The keys were still in the ignition. Rick stared, thought for 2 seconds, and then it hit him. He looked back toward the burning crypt and started cursing. "Edward, you son of a bitch." Circumstances being what they were, Rick had no choice but to swallow his pride. He started the car and drove away from the mountains. "Everyone, the fire at the crypt is out. Security has it handled. Please go back and get some rest," Edward Miller announced, a coat draped over his shoulders as he stood at the edge of the burned area, nudging the ashes with his foot. The fire had been kept within a reasonable boundary. If the Millers didn't have that much of an emergency plan, the family would have been wiped out long ago. "Edward, have the cause of the fire investigated tonight. We have a big celebration tomorrow. We need to keep things calm," said the eldest of the neutral faction uncles. "The security cameras are all broken. How do you want me to investigate?" Edward asked. "Then hold the security company accountable." "It was Rick," Edward said calmly. "I kicked him out. He must have gotten pissed off." The eldest uncle sighed. He knew Rick was on the property today, so the explanation was plausible. "It's not my place to say, Edward, but Rick comes home at the end of every year and causes some kind of trouble. We really need to deal with this. You go talk to the old man about it." "I can't control Rick," Edward said, pulling his coat tighter before turning to leave. He threw a final comment over his shoulder. "And remember to tell everyone at the next meeting that repairing the crypt isn't going to be cheap. Plus, with the Shung family staying here, we'll have to compensate them for the scare, hospital visits, therapy, whatever. That's another expense. The Shungs are one thing, but the crypt wasn't that badly burned, was it? The crypt is the family's face. It must be repaired properly." Edward sighed again, then walked over to Winston Shung and patted his shoulder. "Sorry about the scare, Win. It's nothing but the fire." "Oh well, help me talk some sense into Rick later. He's too old for these stupid games." Winston nodded. Burning the family crypt really was crossing a line. Edward walked slowly back to his room, his posture heavy with burden. The moment the door closed, a smirk spread across his face. "I wonder what will burn next year." He pulled a notebook from his drawer. On its pages were neatly recorded years of damage caused by Rick Miller. In reality, besides waving a propane tank around, Rick had never actually done anything. But it didn't matter. If Rick didn't do bad things, how could he balance the books? The Miller family wasn't short on cash, but their finances were managed with meticulous precision. When you're this big, you have to be precise or no amount of money is enough to squander. The hardest part to manage was always the family's daily expenses. Unlike a business ledger, the expense account was a chaotic mess of personal favors and blurred lines. Because everyone was related by blood, spending easily became a matter of sentiment. Since the books were so hard to manage, Edward didn't bother. It was all just a matter of one big fire at the end of the year. He'd pin it on Rick. The family office would have a legitimate reason to approve the funds, and he could use a portion of it to clear the messy accounts and have a peaceful new year. Why invite the Shung family over early? It gave him another legitimate reason to ask for money. The sum wasn't even that large. Edward could have covered the shortfall from his own pocket without a thought. The tricky part was that the money had to come out of the official daily expense budget. Debts paid, books balanced, worries gone. So what if Rick took the heat? Even a discarded pawn had to contribute to the family. Otherwise, what was the point of leaving that dog hole in the fence? So Rick could come and scare him. You all can fight as much as you want. It has nothing to do with me. I got a mountain of family business to deal with. Edward stared silently toward the outer wall, then shook his head and leaned back in his chair, a smile on his face. Stupid brother. The thought of Rick's apoplectic face was deeply satisfying. Leo was back in his father's old house. This time, he'd been escorted. Willow, what do you get out of betraying me? Leo's expression was a masterpiece of disbelief. The moment he saw her standing outside the fence with a squad of security guards, the shock had already worn off. He realized he'd been kidnapped because Willow had gone to the patriarch. Willow sat across from him, her face an unreadable mask. I get a fiancé. Fine. Let's say I agree to get engaged to you tomorrow. Then what? Leo propped his legs up on the coffee table. Then nothing. We'll just be fulfilling the duties of an engaged couple. You've gone full villainous again, haven't you? I'm doing what I want to do. You can call it whatever you like. Leo shook his head and laughed without humor. Sometimes you couldn't blame a guy for being a scumbag. In the car, when Willow had been desperate for a promise, he had buttoned her coat and told her, "Don't rush. Let's take our time. Any promise I make now would be irresponsible." If he just whispered a few sweet nothings, made some empty vows, would any of this be happening? Willow, I really didn't expect it to be you. So who were you thinking of? Skylar? Isabella? Dr. Shaw? Summerlin? We're not talking about the same thing. It doesn't matter. Whatever it is, you'd never suspect me. Willow, you've lost your damn mind, haven't you? Yes, she admitted without hesitation. Because I realized that when I was chasing love from you, my heart was always in turmoil. I was desperate for promises, for security. But that's not who I really am. Now, like this, when I'm not chasing love, I feel calm. Then why don't you just stay away from me? Leo threw his hands up. I tried. It's been 3 days since our date at the sanctuary. Do you know what I dreamed about? If you have something to say, just say it. No one's going to prompt you. Willow sat with her knees together, speaking with a serene detachment. I dreamed that after you got your memory back, you reconciled with all of them, and I became an outsider again. If you spend all night thinking about that crap, of course you're going to dream about it. But I can't accept that dream. Becoming your fiancé is the only way I can find peace. Listening to Willow, Leo couldn't help but feel a wave of exasperation. Willow, I don't care when you throw a fit. Couples argue, it's normal. But tomorrow is a matter of life and death for me. So help me escape this one time, and I'll let it all go. Our engagement party is inside the Miller compound. How could it be life or death? My uncle wants to kill me. He won't make a move unless I go to that concert. I have to make it happen so I can follow the thread and dig deeper. That sounds risky. So stop messing with my plans, Willow, Leo said, looking her straight in the face. His expression was dead serious. This was no longer about feelings. But Willow stepped forward and smoothed the collar of his shirt, which had gotten rumpled from crawling through the fence. If it's risky, then don't go. No fiancé wants to see her future husband walk into danger. This is my chance. But this is my only chance too, Willow whispered, her face getting closer and closer. Leo, I know where my path is now. Why are you suddenly bringing up all this metaphysical stuff? Master Hausher said, the self must die for the soul to be born. Willow muttered the words under her breath. I understand what he meant. To find true peace, I can't run from you, but I also can't beg you for love. You're my demon, my test. I can't avoid you, but I can't ask you for favors either. The right way is to temper my own heart. When I can feel nothing, no matter what you do, that's when my path will be complete. Leo gave her a sideways glance. He thought she was seriously losing it. Your master must have lived through the emo era. That line sounds like a cringy Tumblr post from 2012. I know you'll be angry. I'm prepared to accept any retaliation. Willow lifted her chin defiantly. Oh, so we're officially done now, huh? No more friendly pretenses. Leo's smile turned playful. He didn't say anything else. It seemed two people walking side by side would always come to a fork in the road. It felt like a punishment from heaven, but in reality, the seeds had been planted long ago. Hearing the words officially done, Willow chose to repeat her identity. I am your fiancé. Right, got it. Fiancé, can I borrow your phone? Leo held out his hand. Willow hesitated for a moment before handing it over. Leo first called his mom to tell her he was safe, then he dialed Silas. Silas, save me. I'm being held captive. Do not disturb. A.M. sleeping. Cannot save. Silas, I'm not kidding. I really can't get out. I wish you were kidding. What do you want me to do? Storm the Miller family compound and bust you out? What about the concert tomorrow? Why are you in such a hurry? Your uncle wants to kill you, and you want to walk right into it. If it doesn't happen this time, there will always be a next time. Huh, that's true. Leo scratched his head and handed the phone back to Willow. Silas was right. His uncle was probably more anxious about this than he was. If it didn't work out this time, another chance would come along soon enough. Maybe you should just quietly get engaged. I'm going to sleep. You should go back to your room, too, Leo said, shooing her away. We'll sleep together tonight. You don't have to watch me. I'm not going to run. Leo gave her a reassuring look, then ignored her and walked upstairs to find a room. Watching his retreating back, Willow's eyes flickered with emotion before settling back into a calm stillness. She suddenly felt she understood Dr. Shaw's hate. Some things you only understand after experiencing them yourself. She had to admit Dr. Shaw was playing 4D chess, but she didn't hate Leo, and that, paradoxically, helped her understand the path that Master Hausher was always rambling on about. The facts proved it. She was a girl who fell too easily in love. In short, she was a hopeless romantic, incredibly easy to win over. Leo had barely shown her any attention, and she was already fantasizing about their wedding. That kind of thinking would make her lose herself completely. So if the path of love was a dead end, she wouldn't take it. The self must die for the soul to be born. That was her goal. She wasn't there yet. Just now, she had been tempted several times to agree to help Leo escape. It might have earned her his goodwill. But when she imagined that this escape would unleash a fully formed king of scumbags upon the world, she lost her nerve. She made a silent vow to herself. She would slowly, surely, become completely unbothered by Leo's actions. The ultimate goal was to remain tranquil even if he was intimate with any other woman. When that day came, that would be the day she would leave and return to her peaceful life. If Dr. Shaw could have heard her thoughts from across the city, she would have let out a cold laugh and told her to read fewer angsty romance novels. A person's choices are largely shaped by their experiences and perceptions. You've been way too influenced by the whole tragic heroine narrative. Willow turned and left. She still had to familiarize herself with the engagement ceremony. I'm getting engaged? I'm getting engaged. Leo found an empty room and sat on the edge of the bed, tracing the worn patterns on the windowsill. Anyone attending an engagement party for the first time would be nervous, unless they were a seasoned veteran of 8 divorces. His own mindset was surprisingly calm. Since his mom wasn't here, he could treat the whole thing as a business transaction. Did he love Willow? He knew it was nowhere near that level. This is probably for the best, he mused. We each have our own goals. As Leo sat there, bored without his phone, wondering if he should prepare a song for the reception, and practicing a few scales, a figure slowly approached from a distance. The person had just reached the bottom of the house when Leo, who had opened the window on the 3rd floor, called out, Well, long time no see, Connor. Connor didn't reply. He cautiously looked around, and after confirming no one was watching, he tossed a burner phone up to Leo. Then he slipped away as quietly as he had come. About 5 minutes later, the phone in Leo's hand rang. Connor's first words were, Leo, you have to save my cousin. Peyton? What happened to her? If you don't go to the concert tomorrow, you'll probably never see her again. What do you mean, never see her again? Her fate will be exactly what you're thinking. Only you can save her, Leo. Are you crazy or am I? Have you ever heard of someone ditching their own engagement party to go to a concert? Please just help her. Otherwise, she's going to die. Damn, it's that serious? All right then, Leo Miller will definitely lend a hand. Thank you, Leo. After hanging up, Leo grinned. Now he was finally at ease. So that was the reason. Thinking he might as well do something while he was bored, he decided to cause a little mischief. He put on his clothes, walked downstairs, and disappeared into the vast night. In a house, at an undisclosed location, a small meeting of 3 was underway. Ethan was staring at the floor, lost in thought. From the shadows, their uncle's voice emanated from a phone on speaker, relaying Connor's report. After listening, the uncle let out a soft laugh. It seems Leo still can't let go of your safety, Peyton. Peyton sat in a corner, her expression unreadable. She felt a complicated mix of emotions, unsure if she was happy or not to hear the news. Then, Ethan's phone rang. Looking like a walking corpse, he slowly pulled it from his pocket and answered. A frantic voice yelled from the other end. Cousin, your fiancée is in danger. Go save her. Why don't you save her? Ethan asked, his voice weak. What a thankless bastard. She's your fiancée, not mine. If you won't save her, fine. Let her die, for all I care. Leo spewed a 5-minute tirade of trash talk at Ethan before hanging up. The room fell silent. So that's what Leo meant by lending a hand? The uncle asked, looking at Peyton. He won't save me, she said. Besides, he can't even get out. We proceed with the original plan regardless. This is our best opportunity for now, the uncle said, sighing as he left the room. Before he went, he didn't forget to add, when a plan fails, someone has to take the fall. And that person can only be you. I know, Peyton said, her voice barely a whisper, but I still want to fight for a chance to live. At least I can get close to Leo. And what's the point of that? All you got in return was, let her die for all I care. The uncle shook his head and led Ethan away, leaving Peyton kneeling on the floor, staring out the window with tears streaming down her face. Today was destined to be a grand celebration for the people of Riverbend. At the bustling Riverbend Arena, a massive concert was about to begin. Summer Lynn, the rising star, was performing, and a heavy marketing push had even gotten the event trending at number 5 nationally. Meanwhile, deep in the sparsely populated mountains, another celebration was underway within a fog-shrouded compound. The Miller family's engagement customs were a strange mix of traditional and modern. Besides the classic rituals of gift exchange and formal requests, there were also more contemporary elements, like a proposal. These rules had been set by Rick Miller back in the day. In his youth, he loved pomp and circumstance, always gallivanting around the world, so he naturally wanted things to be as lively as possible. But Leo's engagement party had a problem. Only direct line heirs like Ethan and Leo could have their ceremonies at the family estate. This meant the hosts were supposed to be their parents. Leo's parents, however, were nowhere to be found. So, the nominal host of this party was actually Grandpa Miller. It was perfectly natural for a grandfather to oversee his grandson's engagement. This was also why the party was being held at the Miller estate instead of the bride's home, which was tradition. The patriarch's health prevented him from traveling far. The bad news was the patriarch couldn't even make it from his lakeside cabin to the banquet hall. He was drifting in and out of consciousness. For safety's sake, he was to remain under observation in his cabin, away from the noisy crowds. That left his uncle, Edward Miller, to preside over the ceremony. It didn't really change anything. Even if the patriarch were there, he'd just be making a token appearance. You couldn't expect him to share a drink with Winston Shung, could you? The old man would raise his glass, and Winston would be on pins and needles. You can't refuse a toast from the patriarch. But what if, after one sip, he keeled over? The headlines would read, Patriarch of Miller Family, lifelong Titan, killed by a single glass of wine from Winston Shung. So, with the old man absent, the Shung family could breathe a collective sigh of relief. The venue was decorated in a lavish, modern Chinese-American fusion style. The immediate families of both sides were gathered around a fountain at the entrance to the banquet hall, chatting idly. He's so handsome, one of the two stylists murmured, looking at the man in the mirror. Leo checked out his hair in the reflection. A clean side part. He was satisfied. His features still had a youthful air, a testament to his age. But once his hair was combed back into a more adult style, revealing his forehead, he instantly projected a mature charm. He was undeniably handsome. It was his face, after all, that had been his meal ticket when he first showed up at the Cypress Lounge. As the stylist helped him into his suit jacket, their hands would inevitably brush against his body. Leo, with his legendary thick skin, wasn't about to blush. The stylists, seasoned pros, weren't about to blush either. They weren't ingenues. While subtly copying a feel, they showered him with praise. These lines are just perfect. I didn't realize, young Master Leo, but you're quite solid. Leo was amused. The service industry was tough these days. You had to provide emotional validation no matter what you were selling. Just listen to them. You probably didn't have time for breakfast, did you? My treat. Oh, that's great. Let's get something to eat. One of the stylists cheered, though food wasn't really what was on her mind. A rich young master, and handsome to boot. Those 2 points alone were enough to get her excited. Even if Leo were a mute, those qualities would have had them seeing stars. There was still some time before the ceremony officially began. They wouldn't even mind if something happened with Leo before it started. Yes, right before his engagement party. The plotline felt vaguely familiar, like something from a certain genre of Japanese film. It's Thursday, let's get KFC. Huh? Oh yeah, okay. Oh shoot, I forgot we're in the mountains. We can't get delivery. Leo shot them an exasperated look. He was just being polite, and they took him seriously. They could grab a bite from the kitchen. A bucket of KFC would cost a decent amount, and he usually couldn't bring himself to splurge on it. Young Master Leo, we should exchange numbers, one of the stylists offered. Getting his number was like getting a key to the front door. Who knew what might happen in the future? Sure, but I have conditions for adding me on WhatsApp. Think you can handle it? Let's hear them, she said, her heart pounding in her chest, eyes sparkling. It felt like today might really be her lucky day. Leo glanced at her, leaned in close, and whispered in her ear, "To be my WhatsApp friend, you must meet the following conditions. Unconditionally help me with my Temu orders, boost my Shine coupons whenever I ask, and immediately place your order when we do a group buy." If you can't even do that, what kind of qualified friend are you? Leo turned and strode away, heading out of the room toward the banquet hall. Breathing in the fresh mountain air, he kept glancing toward the main gate. His only hope now was his dad. He just had to wonder if the old man could find a way. If not, he was well and truly stuck. Sunlight, filtered through the mountain mist, streamed through the window, casting a soft, matte finish on everything it touched. In another villa, a stylist was doing Willow's makeup. "Willow, your features are too elegant for heavy makeup. A light touch like this is perfect." Willow studied her reflection. Her hair was swept up, held in place by a jade hairpin, with just a few wisps left to frame her face, adding a touch of ethereal grace. Hearing the stylist's words, she only gave a slight nod. "Okay. Willow, can I have a word with you alone?" her mother, Elaine, asked. The stylist took the hint and discreetly left, leaving mother and daughter alone in the room. "Willow, tell me what you're really thinking," Elaine said. A mother knows her daughter. Seeing her child finally grown up filled her with joy, but her daughter didn't look happy. "Get engaged, get married, have children," Willow recited. "Once you're engaged, marriage is right around the corner. Your futures will be bound together." "Mom, this is my choice." "What I mean is, a relationship isn't sustained by an engagement. It has to be nurtured with care." After raising Willow for 20 years, Elaine could see it at a glance. Her daughter was in a strange state. Whether it was spite or melancholy, it clearly didn't match the joyous atmosphere of the day. "Let me ask you, does Leo want to get engaged to you?" "No, at least not today. He was forced here by the patriarch." Willow answered with stark honesty. "What? Willow, why didn't you tell us something this big sooner? The engagement party aligns with both our family's goals. But you two are destined to drift further apart. Maybe. And what about your feelings for each other?" "Mom, please don't ask anymore." Willow had ultimately chosen the path of a tragic heroine, trying to achieve a state of emotional numbness that surpassed heartbreak. "Willow, listen to your mother this time. If he wants to leave, let him go." "Mom, I know what I'm doing," Willow said, looking down, clearly not accepting her mother's advice. The engagement party was actually a lot of fun. At least, that's what Leo thought. All he had to do was follow his Uncle Edward around, meet relatives, and go through the motions. That is, until he saw the extravagant list of engagement gifts. "Uncle Edward, I've seen engagement gifts online. It's usually a small truck loaded with rice and gift boxes. Isn't he out a little over the top?" "This is the part for show, of course. You have to have some pageantry." "You mean, this isn't all of it?" "Of course not. See Winston Shung's tonsils over there." Leo froze, turning to look at Willow's father, who was grinning from ear to ear. He really could see his tonsils. Why is he so happy? "Your future father-in-law is going into resort development. You helped him." "Who else?" "Your useless father." Edward scoffed. "So, if I go to his resort, do I get in for free?" Leo asked instinctively, earning a massive eye roll from Edward. "Is the concept of family just a vague idea to you? Right now, it's not even a concept. I still get around on a shared scooter. Everything on that gift list is for you too. The Shung family won't take any of it. From now on, when you visit them, your father-in-law will treat you like a king. No matter how much you fool around, your mother-in-law won't dare say a word." Edward looked at Leo with a meaningful expression. "Just listen to the family, and you can have anything you want." "I'm a rebel. I don't listen." "Leo, today is your coming-of-age ceremony." Edward ignored his flippant reply. He stepped forward in his role as an elder uncle and straightened Leo's collar. "Isn't that when you turn 18? Not the coming-of-age ceremony of this land." Edward gazed at the enormous bronze bell by the lake, then clapped Leo on the shoulder. "On this land, the rite of passage is always about starting a family and a career." After that profound statement, Edward led Leo down a long red carpet to meet Winston Shung and Willow. It was time for them to go on stage. The formal announcement of gifts, the declaration of the wedding date, and the proposal. Winston naturally stood beside Edward, as all matters except the wedding itself were to be announced by the parents. Leo and Willow stood behind them as a matter of course. The guests lined both sides of the hall, all eyes on the couple. The Shung family couldn't help but notice the new son-in-law whispering to their daughter. Many were seeing Leo for the first time, murmuring about his looks and family history. The Millers were sizing him up too, their conversations revolving around the son of the infamous third brother. and the engaged couple themselves were whispering. "Let me borrow your phone." Leo was still annoyed that the burner phone Connor had given him had run out of credit after one call. So cheap. It's not like he was going to take out a payday loan with the number. "Who are you calling?" "My dad." "Is Uncle Rick coming?" "If he doesn't come, how can I get married successfully?" Leo stopped himself just in time. What he meant to say was, if Dad doesn't come, how can I escape? But even if his dad showed up in person, how would he get out? Leo scanned the vigilant security guards at the door. Trying to force his way out would be insane. How long does this ceremony go on? All afternoon. What time is it now? 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock? The concert started in 2 hours. The ceremony hadn't even officially begun yet, and after that there would be a meal and closing remarks. It was an hour's drive from the mountains to the city. Leo took a deep breath and took Willow's phone to make a call. Willow watched his profile, hesitating for a long time before mustering the courage to speak. "Leo, are you still thinking about escaping?" "Escape? Who runs away from their own wedding? Do you hate me?" "No, because I'm the #1 nicest guy in the universe." Willow looked up sharply. She couldn't decipher his true feelings from his raised eyebrows, his flippant tone, or his shit-eating grin. All she knew was that this felt familiar. When they had walked side by side toward the patriarch's cabin during the family dinner, he had worn the same expression and spouted similar nonsense, making the air around him feel as light and carefree as he was. But you couldn't tell what he was really thinking from his face. She wanted to know, because he had once opened up to her. "You're not really thinking that deep down." "Actually, deep down, I'm trying to figure out how to redeem the term nice guy, maybe get it rank higher than simp." Leo was still dodging her question with his expressive face. The inexperienced Willow didn't know that Dr. Shaw had once gone through a similar process. She had once said bluntly, "When you and Leo go your separate ways, forget love, he won't even give you his hate." People want to see an emotional reaction after they've hurt or loved someone. They want feedback. But Leo won't give you that. It's his form of invisible resistance. He'll just tell you he dreamed that Grogu fought Captain America last night. This walk down a similar red-carpeted path felt long to some, short to others. To Willow, it felt like she had been walking for an eternity before she finally reached the stage. She listened in a daze as Edward announced the engagement, and the crowd erupted in applause. Finally, they reached the crucial part. It was time for Leo to propose. This was the one and only moment in the entire ceremony that belonged completely to the couple. Edward, Winston, Elaine, the relatives, the waiters, everyone looked up. No matter how many business deals were tangled up in this ceremony, or how much you secretly wished them unhappiness, when the music swelled and you saw the man on stage kneel amidst a shower of flowers, you couldn't help but feel a genuine warmth, a hope that they would be happy and build a small family together. Unless you were a psychopath, everyone stopped what they were doing and looked up at them. Willow looked down at him, her white dress now dotted with petals. She forced herself not to think too much. She had already made her decision. Leo knelt on one knee and opened the ring box in his hand. It wasn't the one he had given her before. This one was prepared by the family. He couldn't tell the styles apart. The only difference was that the family's was bigger, obscenely big. "Will you marry me?" Leo asked, looking up with a smile. "I will," Willow said, naturally extending her hand. "Is this really your choice?" Leo asked, still smiling. "To marry a fiancé who doesn't love you, to accept your fiancé's scumbag reputation, and to become a lonely, resentful wife locked away in a mansion. This is my choice." Getting all self-pitying again. "What do you mean?" Leo smiled and critiqued her behavior. "You're acting just like those guys who get rejected by their crush. They go on and on about how far they ran to buy her breakfast, how they stood in the pouring rain to pick her up from the subway. They create this twisted pleasure through self-torment, as if that will somehow enrich our fragile connection. I just know that the future. Has the future happened? Have I cheated on you? Have I been irresponsible? All your imaginings are baseless. So stop using words like I know the future. You're the one choosing this path of self-torture." Leo's legs were getting sore from kneeling. The audience below still hadn't seen the ring go on the finger. No one knew what the young couple was whispering about. A rare smile appeared on Edward's perpetually stoic face. An atmosphere like this was bound to make anyone happy. That is, until someone sidled up to him from the edge of the banquet hall. "Second brother, that blue-eyed girl the young master brought back last time is here. She's probably here to cause trouble. She could have come any other time. Letting her in now would make things too ugly." Understood. Coming earlier or later would have been fine, but coming at this exact moment? If Edward let her in now, the scene would become an utter mess. The security captain turned and ran out, only to return 2 minutes later. "Second brother, there's someone else in Miss Vance's car." "Who?" "I think it's her father." Edward froze, then shot to his feet. Why didn't you say so earlier? Lead the way. At the main gate of the Miller estate, a man who had traveled all the way from Boston saw Edward slowly approaching and broke into a warm smile. Long time no see, Edward. Sorry for the intrusion. No intrusion at all. You can join us for the engagement party. You're having an engagement party? What a coincidence. Isabella's father, a man named Mr. Vance, said with surprise as he peered into the compound. His words were met with a smile from Edward that didn't reach his eyes. What an act. As if he'd be here otherwise. Seeing the gate open, Isabella ignored the adult's conversation and walked straight toward the banquet hall. After she left, Mr. Vance put on an apologetic expression. Edward, I didn't mean to interrupt. I understand. Then I'll be direct. I need to talk to Leo about something. Mr. Vance's face was apologetic, but his words were not. That puts me in a difficult position, Mr. Vance. This was an order from the patriarch himself. Difficult? An engagement party is difficult? Mr. Vance's tone suddenly changed, his gaze locking onto Edward's. When Leo carried my daughter out of her own wedding, do you think it was difficult for me? Edward was at a loss for words. He knew they were in the wrong on that one, but he'd only ever heard of returning a punch for a punch. He'd never heard of stealing back a bride who'd been stolen. Mr. Vance, you have a point, but you know the patriarch is getting on in years. He doesn't always play by the rules. I understand. I'm not much of a rule follower myself. Perhaps you'd like to speak with the patriarch personally? This time, Edward was genuinely getting a headache. This guy was bad news. Since I'm here, I should certainly pay my respects. Mr. Vance fell in step behind Edward, heading deeper into the Miller estate. The atmosphere in the banquet hall didn't change with Edward's departure. The orchestra was playing Brahms' Hungarian dance now. 5 and festive ribbons formed a giant heart above the fireplace. The room was a sea of red and champagne. The guests waited patiently, waiting for the kneeling man on stage to place the ring on the woman's finger, though no one knew what the couple was whispering about. Willow, was I right just now? Willow took a deep breath, then shook her head. But Leo's expression was certain. You were also thinking that one day, when your heart was dead, you'd leave me, weren't you? Willow froze, her face flushing crimson. Being called out so accurately was embarrassing. Willow, do you know what you sound like right now? Like what? Like a high schooler obsessed with love. I was looking through my old AIM away messages the other day, and I found one I used during puberty that sounded just like that. Willow shook her head violently, but the tears welling in her eyes spoke for her. She silently held out her finger. Soon, a ring would be placed on it. The ring placing went off without a hitch. No one objected. Leo had no intention of not putting it on. Meaning is something people assign. When he decided something was meaningless, it was worth less to him than a pop-tab ring. Amid thunderous applause, the part of the ceremony dedicated to the couple seemed to end as unceremoniously as it had begun. They were officially engaged. With the wedding date set and the gifts given, they were just one step away from marriage. They really looked like a couple now. The boisterous Vincent Shung threw an arm around Leo's shoulder. Son-in-law, tell me what kind of decor you want for the new house. Pick whatever you like. Just get a couple of extra beds. That way we won't have to sleep on the couch when we fight, Leo said, raising his glass and smiling amiably at the Shung family relatives. No one was dissatisfied with Leo, aside from the rumors of his messy private life. It was hard to find any other fault with him. Everyone sincerely wished them a happy future. Unhappy? Don't be ridiculous. You two don't have to worry about a mortgage, scrape together money for a wedding ring, or argue about the cost of a birthing center. If you wanted, a picture of your wedding day could be broadcast on every big screen in Riverbend. Who wouldn't be happy with that? Is this what you wanted? A slightly flushed Leo loosened his tie and glanced at Willow. If you want this, I'll give it to you. Willow stood there silently. They were at the main entrance of the banquet hall. Just like before, Leo had his suit jacket slung over his shoulder, looking at her with the smell of alcohol on his breath. If only first impressions could last forever. Oh, right. There was someone else there that day, too. The fiancé, and the fiancé's girlfriend? In the distance, Isabella Vance leaned against the banquet hall door. She stood with her back to the sun, a blurry silhouette against the intense light. Her legs were crossed, one foot resting higher than the stone lion's pedestal. She watched the engaged couple from afar, a strange smile playing on her lips. A long-awaited reunion, a brief separation making the heart grow fonder. No, that wasn't right. The concept of reunion is always burdened with so much heavy meaning, yet the words are always so light. Because the people of this land are always so reserved with their emotions. No matter how profound the departure, it's just till I'm leaving or all right. And no matter how meaningful the reunion. Even standing here, as the ex-girlfriend at the Miller family's banquet hall, under the gaze of countless relatives, doing the most diabolical thing imaginable, seducing the fiancé in front of the fiancé. The blue-eyed woman just tightened her coat, gave a little wave, and pursed her lips. "Coming with me?" "Where to?" Leo asked, a smile spreading across his face in the sunlight as he put his suit jacket back on. "Don't know. I'm just your ride. You pick the destination." "I can't get out of the Miller estate," Leo said, gesturing to the man in the suit watching him like a hawk. "How do you know if you don't try? My job is just to get you from the main gate back to the city." Isabella dangled a car key from her finger and started walking away. The man in the suit, North, stepped forward, perfectly positioned to block Leo's path. The potent mix of adventure and danger in his blood began to bubble. Leo rolled his shoulders and charged forward. 3 seconds later, he was on the ground, his arms pinned behind him. To describe the man who personally guarded the patriarch as merely skilled was an insult, but at the crucial moment of any story, a savior always appears. Sometimes it's a hero riding on a rainbow cloud. Sometimes it's a gangster in a semi-truck. A semi-truck crashed straight through the main gate. The Miller estate's wall wasn't particularly sturdy. Who would do something as thankless as ramming a wall? But Rick Miller would. He jumped down from the cab and sauntered over, as casual as could be. He lazily pointed at North's head, looking less like a hero and more like a drunk driver. "North, let him go. This is the patriarch's order. Let go or you die." The wiry drunkard didn't have a propane tank this time. Instead, his hand was resting on the small of his back. A true master has eyes in the back of his head. North obviously noticed Rick's movement, his muscles instantly tensing. "Rick Miller, I'm warning you, don't come any closer." "Or what?" The man in the thin, oil-stained leather jacket just swayed his way over to North and squatted down. In that instant, North freed one hand and shot it toward Rick's back, nearly ripping the waistband of his underwear. That's how fast a master moves. And in that same instant, Rick's left hand slipped inside his jacket. A hard object pressed against North's temple through the leather. The handsome old man, who still had some sleep in his eyes, chuckled. "North, at 7 paces this thing is fast. But within 7 paces, it's fast and accurate." North wasn't easily scared. If it were anyone else standing in front of him, he wouldn't believe they'd actually use it. But he truly believed Rick Miller both had one and would use it. He couldn't hold Leo anymore. Who the hell let Rick Miller out? North quietly backed away, and under Rick's watchful gaze, turned and walked toward the man-made lake. Rick murmured something to his son. A moment later, Leo was sprinting toward the main gate without a second glance. Rick stayed behind. He scanned everyone present, then walked over to Winston Shung. "Winston, I accept this daughter-in-law, but my son has some business to attend to." Rick pulled a small gift box from his grimy leather jacket. It was a small gold pendant from a mall jeweler, the kind you could buy 2 of for $50. Willow accepted it with both hands. But her brother, Vincent, was not pleased. "Third brother, the engagement party isn't over. You have to give us an explanation for this." Rick nodded, then shuffled over to Vincent. "What kind of explanation do you want?" "Third brother, you don't represent the Miller family right now, so this is something I need to take up with Leo." Rick slapped him across the face. "Since when do I need to explain myself to you?" Rick then grabbed a stool, sat down by the gate, and started peeling an orange. He was only here to manage the scene and give his son a chance to get away. "Edward isn't here. This power play just isn't as satisfying," he muttered, crossing his legs and gazing toward the lake. "The rest would be handled by others." "Lady, can you slow down a little? We have less than an hour. I'd rather die at the concert than on the road. Don't distract me." Isabella's expression was as focused as if she were racing on a mountain road, which technically she was. "Leo, does this count as an apology? If you insist on driving this fast, please don't get distracted." "Oh, I forgive you. I was seriously asking if this counts as an apology, not asking for your forgiveness," Isabella said, turning to him with a serious expression. "You're... Watch the road, lady." "Fine. It counts as an apology. So are you sleeping in my place tonight? I have other ways of apologizing. I'm engaged. I'm practically a man with a home and family now. So I'll just check with Willow." Isabella said it so casually, as if she were asking to borrow a cup of sugar. Leo was stunned. "Check with Willow? Do you hear yourself? You think you can just give her a heads up like you're borrowing a ladder from a neighbor?" He looked at her profile in disbelief. "Lady, are you saying you want to borrow me for a night by giving her a courtesy call? It's just a fiancé in name only. Who's going to care? You are dead wrong. Willow isn't the same Willow anymore." Leo felt he couldn't even put her transformation into words. "Basically, my life is going to be hell from now on. If I so much as stay out one night, she'll run to the patriarch and snitch. That's not right. That's not what Willow told me." Isabella shook her head. When she called me yesterday, she specifically said she wouldn't control you. Called you. Willow was the one who called you to come. It wasn't my dad. Leo was genuinely confused now. I ran into your dad at the bottom of the mountain. His original plan was to drive that semi-straight to the patriarch's cabin, but my dad stopped him. He said he'd handle the negotiations with the old man. Oh my God, Leo muttered. The planet has a new hope. A true wall-facer has appeared. He was completely lost. What was Willow playing at? On one hand, she forces him into a binding engagement, and on the other, she arranges for someone to help him escape it. Forget Leo. Even an alien invasion force would be stumped by her. Are you kidding me? Otherwise, why would I have waited for the ring to be on her finger before I showed up? Isabella said coolly. It was because she called me that I gave her the dignity of a complete ceremony. If not, I would have been there this morning to give her a couple of slaps. You're a real saint. I just saw a bit of my old self in her. The stubbornness is pretty similar, Leo agreed. He couldn't wrap his head around Willow's logic, so he decided to shelve it for now. He'd figure it out later. But then he felt a hand on his waist. What are you doing? My mouth isn't hard. One try. Can you just drive the damn car? I am driving. Oh, we're playing with double meanings now, are we? I'm teasing you. I wouldn't eat that stuff anyway. You've successfully triggered my competitive spirit. Then come home with me tonight and we'll see. My little maid. Isabella expertly maneuvered the car along the bypass, picking up speed in every sense of the word. Buddy, I've got business to attend to. Don't think you can seduce me with these petty games of love. Just giving you a little something to keep you hooked, so you don't go trying to kill yourself like last time. Hey, it's not like I wanted to die. Life is full of accidents, you know. Leo was still gesticulating wildly, but Isabella had stopped talking. With no one to banter with, the car fell silent. Hey, why'd you stop talking? I was just thinking about something unpleasant. What? The day of the crash. I couldn't even wipe all the blood off your face. Hey, a man doesn't fall in the same place twice. Leo pointed at himself confidently. His words didn't comfort her. The closer they got to the arena, the more she honked the horn, a clear sign of her inner turmoil. What's bothering you? On the mountain, I was thinking about whether I should just lock the doors and drag you to my place. Lock me up somewhere else. Losing a day of freedom is better than seeing your face covered in blood. Then why did you bring me here? I should support your choices, right? Isabella looked up. She was crying, but this wasn't the first time. A cold person who cries often is a bit of a contradiction, but it seemed to fit her. The blue of her irises mingled with the clear tears, and maybe some dried toner on her skin. Who knew? Leo's sharp nose could pick up that much. Go take care of your business, Leo said, opening the car door without another word. I'll wait for you here. Pick me up here tonight. Can you promise I'll be picking up a whole you? Promise. Leo opened the door, then ducked back in, leaning close to Isabella again. Because I don't want to see you cry. He turned and looked at the massive Riverbend arena. His slender figure disappeared into the crowd, and he gave a small wave without looking back. The tangled high-voltage cables above continued to deconstruct the city's metallic romance. Leo hesitated too. Why wouldn't he? A whole mess of beautiful women were waiting for him at home. Who wouldn't want a comfortable life? But he couldn't stomach it. He was in his 20s. Why should he bow down to them? Damn it all. Just because they were rich, they thought they could mess with him however they wanted. Right and wrong. Leo couldn't be bothered with all that. His philosophy was simple. If someone wants to mess with me, I'll mess with them. What else is life for? He looked up at the giant clock on the Riverbend arena. The Miller estate had a giant bronze bell, too. It wasn't for telling time. It was for funerals. In the days before cell phones, when the bell rang, you had to go to the crypt. The tradition remained. The Miller family was too big, with too many people. You couldn't just post in the family WhatsApp group some grandpa died. A big family needed a sense of ceremony. When the bell rings, someone has to die. Leo walked toward the concert entrance, his solitary back a mirror of the day he left Isabella's house. So for whom does the bell toll tonight? By the time Leo actually got to the concert, they had already stopped letting people in. Entry usually closes half an hour after the show starts, which meant that even with his mad dash, he was 30 minutes late. Summerlin was feeling anxious today. By now, Leo was probably toasting his new father-in-law or something. But she tried to pull herself together for her job. You can do this, Summer. She gave herself a silent pep talk. There was a knock on the door, and Peyton came in. Nervous? First time playing a stadium this size. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't, Summer confessed, pouring out her worries to Peyton. From a purely personal standpoint, she really liked Peyton. She was always a patient listener and offered positive encouragement. You got this. Leo will be watching you. Really? Is he coming? Summer's eyes lit up instantly. Of course. He'll just be hidden in the audience. You might not be able to find him among 10,000 heads. That's okay. Just knowing he's out there is enough to calm me down. Summer patted her chest, her expression now resolute. But the voice of the stage manager crackled through the backstage intercom. Opening act is over in 5 minutes. It was time for Summer to go on. A stylist did some final touch-ups, and a tech fitted her with an earpiece. Right before she went on stage, Summer said one last thing to Peyton. Peyton, you look so beautiful today. Not as beautiful as the star of the show. Thank you, Peyton. And can you tell me what stage Leo's engagement party is at? Summer patted her chest and promised. I'm just asking. I promise it won't affect my performance. He's on his way here. Then you have to bring him to the front row seats we saved. I want to see him. Summer's expression was earnest. Peyton, I'm treating today as my coming of age. Coming of age? Summer shook her head. My mother and Leo are the most important people in my life. I want them to see with their own eyes that I've grown up. You might be a little late for that. Most people have theirs when they're 18, Peyton joked with a smile. It's never too late to grow up, Summer said, giving Peyton a hug. Peyton, thank you for agreeing to terminate my contract. I want to give my all for my last performance. Are you sure you want to retire at the peak of your career? Peyton, I was standing at a height that never truly belonged to me. It was only after I saw the situations of my peers that I realized how much I've been quietly supported all these years. If I had faced it all alone, I might still be struggling with a massive trainee contract buyout or suffering through unspoken industry pressures. To be honest, I didn't even want to do this concert. But I really wanted to perform my best in front of Leo. Summer's smile was open and honest. She gave a final wave and left with one last sentence. I was lucky to get this far. So now it's time to think about why I started in the first place. Peyton shook her head and walked through the narrow backstage corridor to the last dressing room. She glanced at Connor, who was inside. How's the engagement party going? No news. There must have been some kind of disruption. A disruption should mean more news, not less. Peyton shook her head and left the room, heading toward the staff exit. A disruption should have sent ripples of information. The fact that there was silence meant the patriarch must have realized something and locked down all communications. That meant Leo had even less of a chance to escape. I should be happy about this. A bright smile spread across Peyton's face as she pushed open the door to a storage closet. It was filled with boxes of mineral water and miscellaneous equipment. The staff quarter outside was still busy, with dozens of people coming and going. The backstage logistics alone were a massive undertaking. Peyton checked a list, signed it, and then closed the door, walking alone into the storage room. She did look beautiful today. Her hazel contact lenses made her almond-shaped eyes pop, and a tight-fitting dress hugged her graceful curves. Her high heels made a soft clicking sound as she walked. A small wind chime dangled from her purse. She had a foxy face, the kind born to please men. Fate had dealt her that hand. She hadn't wasted the gift. It didn't matter if she was greedy for money. There would always be men greedy for beauty. It was an equal exchange, nothing to be ashamed of. But the price had to be right. Too much ambition could kill a person. Luckily, she had a brain. She had walked this path all the way to today. Born in a remote mountain village, she had finally arrived at this dusty storage closet. Her expensive outfit was completely out of place here. She had chosen this spot precisely because of its grimy environment. Summer's words from earlier echoed in her mind. Coming of age? Think about why I started. Peyton laughed. She didn't regret a single step that brought her here. A life of languishing in a small village versus living brightly for 20-some years? She would choose the latter every time. This was the path she had chosen. Things like a coming-of-age ceremony didn't belong to poor kids like her. She hadn't even known what the term meant until a few years ago when she saw it online. She took a length of rope from her purse. Yes, she was going to end her own life. She didn't want to die, but if she had to, she might as well die beautiful. When she was in high school in the county town, she used to work part-time at a little diner for $10 an hour. The TV, there was always playing popular dramas, many of them about office life. She thought those career women were so cool. Sexy, beautiful, confident, and free from anyone's control. It wasn't until she met all those conditions herself that she realized TV was a lie. But she really was beautiful now, so she wanted to die beautifully, too. Maybe the idea came from her ugly duckling school days. Before college, most of her clothes were school uniforms. She had never bought a lipstick. Her college roommate had to teach her how to shop online. As for living, there was no hope. Making someone with such shallow social connections disappear was incredibly easy. She had no family who cared if she lived or died. Friends? She had made plenty as she climbed the social ladder, but the people from her past couldn't keep up, and the people in her new class looked down on her. After finishing a single cigarette, she had already reviewed her short life. The past wasn't worth remembering. She had been neither human nor ghost. What was there to recall? It was time to start thinking about him. And now, finally, the face of a person about to die appeared, full of pain and struggle. She admitted it. She had taken some wrong turns. What were Summer Lynn's past mistakes compared to hers? Just petty squabbles between a teenage boy and girl. If she were Summer, the two of them would be living a happy life by now. But she was Peyton. A sob caught in her throat, but like all suppressed emotions, it gradually faded. She didn't cry. She was ready to die. She wanted one last cigarette before the end, but she couldn't find a light. Fine. If it was gone, it was gone. She only regretted that it wasn't spring, a spring with soft earth and a gentle breeze. In the spring, do you not dream of death? She murmured to herself. Who said that? It sounds kind of romantic. A strange voice came from the corner of the storage room. Peyton's body reacted with an involuntary jolt of joy. She didn't turn around, but she was trembling violently. Was it a dream that brought you here? It was a scalper. Leo played with a lighter, trying to light the cigarette in his mouth. He had crawled out from behind a stack of boxes. And on that topic, he had to complain. Damn, these scalpers are incredible. I paid $1,800 for a backstage pass, and they actually got me in. Leo's phone was still back at the Miller estate. He couldn't call anyone. By the time he arrived, they had stopped letting people in. Not that it mattered. No one had given him a ticket anyway. He really had to complain about his uncle. Next time you try to kill me, could you at least think things through? Did it not occur to you that I might get stuck at the front door? Thank God for the omnipotent scalpers. They had tickets for the first floor, the second floor, and even backstage. The backstage pass was a bit of a process, though. When Leo heard they could get him backstage, he was thrilled. Whatever the cost, he'd buy it. The result was that he paid $1,800 to be stuffed into a large crate and literally carried in the storage room. Leo glanced at the rope in Peyton's hand, but didn't say anything. He just squatted in front of her, meeting her eyes. If you want to die, I can help you. Given your height, tying that rope will probably be a hassle. Leo, you shouldn't have come. I'm asking you, do you still want to die? This is the last time I'm asking. Tell me the truth. I want to live. Leo stood up, tossed his suit jacket aside, and leaned against the doorframe. He took one last drag of the cigarette, then threw it on the ground and crushed it with his shoe. The roar of the crowd from the stage filled the air. He glanced back at Peyton, then go tell them. Leo Miller has arrived. Leo's here. Peyton pushed the door open, her demeanor casual as she delivered the news. She said nothing more. There were no tear stains on her face. It was as if the past few minutes had never happened. I know. What's my next move? Ethan asked. You don't have to do anything. Just deliver the final blow. Like last time, probably. Only Ethan and Peyton were in the room. Ethan sat quietly in the corner and nodded. He suddenly looked up. Can I know what's going to happen next? I don't know either. Peyton shook her head. She really didn't know, but that was okay. She was about to find out. She took an earbud from her purse, put it in, and listened carefully to the hoarse voice on the other end. Is Leo here? He's here. Good. Where is he? He went to the front to watch the concert. Don't tell me he doesn't know anything and is just here to enjoy the show. He has a message for you, and he said to relay it word for word. Peyton bit her lip as she said this. Go on, word for word. He said that tonight. He's not Leo Miller. He's a genuine 10-year fan of Summer Lynn, here to fulfill a dream and watch a concert. But fuck you. Peyton almost couldn't hold back a laugh. That's a direct quote. Thank you for being the messenger. Now for your first task. The hoarse voice ignored Leo's crude humor. Tell me, sit with Leo in the VIP section and get intimate in front of his ex-girlfriend. Peyton couldn't understand this part. In fact, she had never understood why the concert had been chosen as the location. She tried to probe for the reason. What's the purpose? That's not for you to ask. Just do it. But intimate is a broad term. How far should I take it? Take it far enough that the star on stage is forced to come backstage during intermission and confront you both. Hearing this, Peyton started to argue. You don't understand the relationship between Summer and Leo. She wouldn't have the guts to confront him. Then be more outrageous, including mating like feral animals in a stadium of 10,000 people. In short, I need a picture of that celebrity angrily confronting you both. How you achieve that is your problem. Let me consider. Peyton's expression was pained. You don't have the right to consider. Your reputation or your life. Pick one. You don't actually think Leo is here to save you, do you? If I recall correctly, due to his amnesia, there's still a severe lack of trust between you. To him, you might just be a disgusting opportunist. The voice in the earbud went dead, leaving Peyton standing there, hesitating. The concert was awesome. Right now, Leo was sitting in the front row, a seat that was practically priceless. The people here were either rich or die-hard fans who had bled their wallets for their idol. Are you a Summer Lynn fan too? Of course. A 10-year fan. Get out of here. Summer's only been famous for a few years. Hey, I'm not lying. Leo clapped along, chatting with the girl in glasses next to him. He really was a 10-year fan. He'd been listening to Summer sing since elementary school. Doesn't that count? Leo was genuinely enjoying the concert. He had come here purely as a spectator. If something happened, he'd deal with it. If nothing happened, he'd just sit here and listen to the music. Adapt to whatever comes. The girl in glasses waved her glow stick and leaned over to ask quietly, "Which fan group are you in?" "Me? I'm not in one." "You're a Wild fan?" "Wild? He has fans?" "Don't insult him," Leo shot back, misunderstanding. "I mean, you're a fan who's not in a group, right?" "Right. Then you're a fake fan. The real fans are all in the groups organizing support events. People who buy front row tickets get to request a song in the fan group. Front row tickets get to do that? Then how come I don't? See? You're a fake fan." The girl mercilessly called him out. "No way. Why does everyone else with a front row ticket get to request a song, but me?" Leo was getting annoyed. The damn scalper hadn't mentioned that perk. Requesting a song wasn't important, but he didn't spend $1,800 for nothing. He wanted a refund. "Can I join the fan group now?" Leo asked. "Why didn't you join before?" "Before? My girlfriend wouldn't let me, and she's okay with it now. I'll just join behind her back." Your girlfriend seems to be here." The girl in glasses looked at the seat next to Leo and shyly turned away. But she kept stealing glances at the woman who had just approached. This woman didn't look like the guy's girlfriend. She looked more like his stepmom. "EW, why are they making out? What? Are you trying to molest a wholesome college student?" Leo pushed Peyton away, looking at her indignantly. "Who here understands my pain? I was just watching a concert, I turn my head for a second, and a pervert forces a kiss on me. This is my mission. There are missions like this? Sign me up for more. I need to create a scene where Summer Lynn confronts you and me." Leo tilted his head. "Explain." "I don't get it either. I'm just supposed to do it." "You're supposed to do it. What it got to do with me?" Leo said, but he leaned back in his chair, a guess about his uncle's plan already forming. He thought he knew what the old man was up to. Known variable. They need a scene of Summer confronting Peyton and Leo. It couldn't just be to satisfy his uncle's sick fantasies, to create a dramatic love triangle for his amusement, right? Leo closed his eyes and extracted the keywords: cousin, other cousin, killer, victim, ex-girlfriend, fiancé, seduction, confrontation, public concert. He needed to arrange these words in order to piece together the full picture of the game. How do you turn two cousins into a killer and a victim? Could the seduction and affair with the older cousin's fiancé be the motive? The motive was strong, believable, but it was all family business handled behind closed doors. Did they even need a motive? Even if you told Edward that his son had been killed by Ethan, Edward wouldn't dig too deep into the reasons. That's just how it was in the battle for succession. So who was the motive for? Leo glanced around. A stadium of 10,000 people, roaring like the ocean. Was this story just for them? Unlikely. Everyone was holding up their phones. It was hard to tell if the people were watching the concert or if their phones were. So, this is a story for the public. Summer and the concert are just the catalyst to make it go viral. The famous pop star Summer Lynn was the spark. 10,000 fans with a transmission vector. With that, he could reconstruct the story they wanted to tell the world. It would be the kind of gossip people talked about for weeks. Maybe the celebrity gossip groups would be buzzing. "Did you hear? The ex-boyfriend of pop star Summer Lynn died at her concert." Just say he died. Who's spreading rumors that he was her ex? He was in her videos when she was an early influencer. Someone posted the links online. OMG. How'd he die? "I heard this guy, Leo, seduced his own cousin's fiancée, and they were caught fooling around at the concert by Summer Lynn." What? That's insane. So Summer killed him. No, it was Leo's cousin. He found out his fiancée was cheating and killed his own cousin in a rage. OMG. So this has nothing to do with Summer Lynn after all. Are you kidding? This thing blew up so big, people dug up everything. Leo and Ethan are the owners of Summer Lynn's record label. Wow, the lives of the rich are so messy. This sounds like some kind of Succession drama. Totally. Someone said Leo was in a car crash before, and that Ethan was behind it. It's all a fight for the family fortune. Wait, is this even the world I know? People just get killed like that? Is there no law? Phew, this was the top trending story, but now it's gone. The invisible hand is at work. But I've lived in Riverbend my whole life. How come I've never heard of the Miller family? I haven't either, but I bet you've heard of these. Starlight Plaza, Shop In Save, Apex Media. My God, rich people really can do whatever they want. I'm almost scared to go to the supermarket now. The above conversation was a product of Leo's overactive imagination. But based on his extensive experience surfing the web, that's about how it would go. And that was the best case scenario. On the internet, All you need is a story with a hook and a few leaked photos. Then you just create a few shareable memes. The river in Riverbend stands for the Riverbend Millers. Is there even law anymore? Heroes always fall for the sister-in-law. For the terminally online, it's all just entertainment. But for the Miller family, it could be a catastrophe. And what if someone in the know fanned the flames? Someone like the eldest Miller brother. Leo almost laughed at the thought. If things really played out that way, he could become an internet celebrity. Don't want the heiress, only the sister-in-law. I'm not loyal. I only sleep with my sister-in-law. Shaking the thoughts from his head, Leo's smile faded. His uncle had ultimately given him a choice, one that felt familiar from the family dinner. The old man who had tried so hard to stuff him into the belly of a fish had asked him, "Are you a fish, or are you a person? Be a fish and dive into the Miller family's pond. Play by the patriarch's rules. Be a person and follow my plan, and we'll blow this whole thing wide open." What's that? You might die in my plan? But you made the same choice with the last car crash, didn't you? Leo had answered that question countless times already. The fish in the water and the people on the shore were all the same. He was his own man. As for how to answer this time, that would depend on what he did next. Leo shook the thoughts from his head. He didn't ask where his uncle was. He didn't ask Peyton what she knew. He just turned to her and changed the subject. "You're a strange one. Does my uncle have something on you?" Leo asked, waving his glow stick and looking at Peyton with genuine curiosity. "He does. Is it something heinous? Something that would harm society?" "No. Then come work for me. The Cypress Lounge is the perfect place for you. You wouldn't be a waitress. You could manage the money, help me run the place." Leo's face was relaxed as he said this. "I hurt you," Peyton emphasized. Leo ignored her and stared in her eyes. "If I hadn't come today, you would have died, right?" "Maybe. So stopping me from coming here, was that your way of making up for the harm you caused?" "Not making up for it. If I were to say it cheesily, it was more like self-redemption." "All right, I accept your redemption. From now on, we're even." The stage lights cast shadows on Leo's face as he looked at the beautiful woman before him. "Peyton, the crying child gets the candy. Next time you do something behind someone's back, remember to ask for your treat first." "I don't want anything." People who don't want anything are the most terrifying and the most tragic. You're a gold digger with only $1 million in your bank account. You one of a kind. Then, can I have another kiss? I knew it. You definitely didn't stick your tongue out just for the mission. "I'm kidding. I want you to trust me," Peyton said, looking at Leo. Trust was still the biggest barrier between them, an almost insurmountable obstacle. "Okay, tonight, I'll trust you." Leo didn't hesitate. He patted her shoulder gently. "You earned this with your life. Cherish it. If you really trust me, then you should leave right now. Ethan's in a really bad state." Peyton's expression was serious. "I'm not leaving. By the way, what was your mission again?" Leo asked, turning his head. "Leo, you're insane. You're going to cooperate." Peyton's face was a mask of disbelief. "Of course I'm going to cooperate. I'll cooperate with you, and you'll cooperate with me." Leo put down his glow stick and spoke to her with grave seriousness. "Everything has an invisible price tag. My uncle must have anticipated that I'd be able to get here. But why was he so sure I'd cooperate with him? He kept bringing up the seemingly irrelevant Peyton. Don't you find that strange? He was telling me that he holds the key to your fate. If I cooperate with him, that key will be transferred to me as a bonus. Whoever has it controls you." Peyton listened in stunned silence. After a long moment, she leaned close to Leo's ear. "I'd be fine with you controlling me. No, I'm giving you your freedom. You can be done with your wretched past for good." Leo turned to look at her. "You just need to produce enough evidence at the right time or appear as a witness. Whatever it takes to end this mess for good. I promise you your freedom. The sky's the limit." Peyton nodded, choosing her words carefully. "Leo, I thought you didn't want to get Summer Lynn involved in this." "Of course I don't, but she's already involved. The most important thing now is to solve the root problem for good. Today it was Summer Lynn. Who would it be tomorrow? Instead of worrying about ruining her concert, he should be worried about what would happen if he didn't handle his uncle. Another concert, another public drama. But how to get Summer to confront them? That was the real challenge." Leo frowned. "When the Reverend gave you this mission, did he offer any advice?" "He advised us not to advise us. So the easiest part is actually the hardest," Leo sighed. Peyton saw the strain on his face. "Leo, even if you don't save me, I'm still willing to give you the evidence you mentioned. It's no trouble. I'd have to do it this way regardless. How else are we supposed to catch them all in one net if everyone's hiding their cards?" Peyton looked at his profile and said no more, but a sense of peace settled over her. Maybe he really was willing to trust her. The song request part is coming up. Do you want this chance or not? The superfan with the glasses nudged Leo's arm. "The queue is completely full, but I talked to a few other fans and managed to trade for a spot for you. It'll cost an extra $5,000 though." Leo's head shook so fast it was a blur. He'd only wanted to request a song out of principle. He'd paid a scalper's price for the tickets and felt he deserved the full experience. But paying more? Not a chance. $5,000 for one song? That wasn't a price, it was a stick-up. For $500, he could rent a private room at a karaoke bar and have Summer Lynn sing for him all night. I'll pay for it, Peyton said, cutting them off. She signaled that she'd cover the $5,000. The gesture nearly brought the superfan to tears. A girlfriend willing to spend $5,000 to help her cheapskate boyfriend fulfill a dream. Honey, your boyfriend doesn't deserve you, the girl whispered to Peyton. He was secretly joining fan groups behind your back earlier. Requesting a song isn't just his wish, it's mine too, Peyton replied smoothly. After all, without Summer Lynn, we never would have gotten together. Leo, sitting between them as they leaned in to talk, thought to himself that she wasn't wrong. Without Summer Lynn, he never would have ended up at the Cypress Lounge. And he never would have met Peyton. As the head of the fan club, the girl with the glasses loved nothing more than hearing stories about how her idol changed people's lives. It filled her with a profound sense of pride. That's my idol. Do you two have a touching story? I'll tell it during the song request. Oh, awesome. Okay, you could be the first one to request a song, then. Leo listened, puzzled. It felt like the superfan was running the show, not the venue. Isn't this part supposed to be random? It's partially random, she explained. But some influencers doing promotional work and the most active fans get priority for screen time. So you couldn't just go backstage and tell them? We had to spend $5,000. There wasn't time. Peyton paid, and Leo nodded. Then he turned to her. So, what kind of trouble are you about to start? Just you wait and see. Summer Lynn shook out her aching wrist, her A-line skirt swaying as she paced the stage. Once the song request segment was over, she could finally take a short break. Not that it would be much of a rest, just a few minutes to change outfits and touch up her makeup. While the director's camera scanned the audience randomly, her eyes did their own sweep of the crowd. I wonder if Leo came. Just as she muttered the thought, a wave of cheers erupted from the audience. She looked up at the big screen. It was Leo. Summer's eyes instantly curved into crescent moons. She leaned toward the edge of the stage, spotting him in the front row. And his cousin-in-law was sitting with him? That made sense. Peyton must have gotten him in. Another gorgeous couple. I'm officially jealous, Summer said, using the moment to chat with the audience. So, what song would our handsome friend like to hear? She was genuinely happy. This was her chance to find out if Leo actually listened to her music. What if he fell asleep every night with one of her songs on a loop? The microphone was passed to Leo, but he immediately handed it to Peyton. Seeing this, Summer felt a prickle of annoyance. What is wrong with you, Peyton? Don't snatch the mic. But she kept a bright smile plastered on her face. And what song would this lovely lady like to request? I'd like to request Cobalt Night for my boyfriend. The crowd murmured, a mix of reactions. Some loved the song. Others shouted out different titles. But the words hit Summer's ear all wrong. Boyfriend? Who's your boyfriend? It was only a flicker of surprise, though. After all, the person saying it was Peyton, not Isabella Vance, not Skylar Reed. Peyton was a strong, career-oriented woman, her confidant. She wouldn't make a joke like that. It had to be an act, something staged to create a viral moment. I have to play along. Summer quickly accepted the girlfriend premise. She backed away from the white spotlights, her skirt trailing behind her. Ooh, it sounds like you two have a story with this song. Her tone was playful, teasing. Every time I hear Cobalt Night, I feel like it's telling the story of our love. Summer bit her lip, silently fuming. She can really act. You two have a story? Yeah, right? Well, I'm a very nosy person. Would you be willing to share it with us? At Summer's question, Peyton straightened her skirt and stood up. Even magnified on the big screen, her features were flawless. He and I met when we were very young. You could call us childhood sweethearts. I loved music, and the gift I wanted most in the world was a professional audio interface. He worked for 2 months at a big box electronics store to buy me one for my birthday. It was only a used one, but I can't describe how moved I was. That day, we rode home on his e-scooter, and it started pouring rain. I sat behind him, my arms wrapped around his waist, and I felt like I was the happiest person in the world. As a tear escaped the corner of her eye and traced a path down her cheek, she turned her head just so, looking at Leo, who was still seated. When those captivating eyes filled with tears, she could make looking at a strayed dog seem like an act of profound love. The audience erupted. This didn't look like an act at all. In the already romantic atmosphere of the concert, a story like this was perfect. Only Summer Lynn wasn't smiling anymore. She practically bid out the words into the microphone. And then what happened? And then we got together. But what does that have to do with the song Cobalt Night? Later, when we heard the song, We realized the story in the lyrics was so much like our own experience. Summer closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Of course, it's like your experience. I wrote the damn song about that experience. But that's my story. You're a thief. You're stealing my story. Summer pressed her lips together, feeling a furious heat rise in her chest. She could tolerate anything else. She had no right to meddle in his other affairs. Leo wasn't hers. But the story was hers. You can't just steal someone's story. This was the one thing she couldn't stand. I would have thought your story would be about you chasing your music dreams and your relationship falling apart because of it, Summer said, her voice tight. That would never happen. We're very happy together. Then may I be so bold as to ask what you two do for a living? Because you seem a bit more mature, while your boyfriend looks like a college student. Peyton's expression was placid. In truth, I'm just the woman behind him. My boyfriend is an incredible man, so I don't have to do much to live a happy life. I just need to understand him and support him. She didn't stop there. As for my mature style, that's what my boyfriend likes. After all, a wife's appearance is a testament to her husband's honor. Whatever he likes, I'll wear. Whether it was true or not, the statement hit a sweet spot with the men in the audience. A chorus of cheers rose from the crowd. The louder they cheered, the worse Summer felt. Peyton didn't seem to be acting. This felt like a new girlfriend coming to stomp all over the ex. But don't you underestimate me. I won't lose. Summer raised the microphone. Why don't we have your boyfriend stand up and say a few words? Now all eyes, guided by the big screen, turned to Leo. Peyton, ever the killer, leaned close to Leo, pretending to whisper. But she was holding the microphone, and even the softest sound was amplified for the entire arena to hear. Her whisper was, "Honey, say something." With so many people watching, what could Leo say? He could only stand up, take the microphone, and look at the stage. My girlfriend is right. Whether she was right or not, Leo honestly didn't know. He'd never even heard the song, but he had heard the story Peyton told. It was the one Summer Lynn had told him, so he guessed the song was based on that experience. The audience, however, wasn't going to be satisfied with just that. A wave of shouts and catcalls rose from the crowd. Your girlfriend requests a song for you, and all you can say is she's right? That's so lame. When people gather in a crowd, the hecklers just materialize out of thin air. Who wouldn't want to see a deeply emotional story play out in such a romantic setting? Of course, Leo wasn't about to ruin the mood. He cleared his throat and turned to face the tens of thousands of people. This song is a lot like something that happened to me a long time ago. I won't go into all the details, but it was one of those moments where feelings just ignite. I'm sure you've all had days like that. A moment when a relationship levels up. Maybe it was a sunny afternoon. Maybe it was a quiet, rainy day. Our stories are all different. A mix of good and bad that's hard to sort out. But I'm an amnesiac. I've tested it for all of you. No matter how bad a memory is, it's not as bad as forgetting it completely. So this song isn't just for me. It's for all of you, and for your own cobalt nights. His words silenced the entire arena. Maybe it was the shock of hearing he was an amnesiac, or maybe it was the weight of that final phrase. It's not as bad as forgetting it completely. In any case, the chit-chat was over. It was time for Summer Lynn to sing. Leo nodded his thanks, handed back the microphone, and sat down, giving Summer a small nod from his seat. He was thanking her. His story had been forgotten, but it had been recorded in another way. Could a life, a missing piece of a life, really be summed up as just forgotten relationship memories? Leo didn't know. He was trying so hard to find himself in all these different stories. Responsible, argumentative, foul-mouthed savior. All these countless labels were pieced together to form an image of him. Whether the labels were good or bad, once they were attached to him, they told compelling, charismatic stories. That made Leo happy. Who wouldn't want to be a charismatic person? But it also made him uneasy, because only a fake image could be flawless. Strolling in the rain, under the blue street lights' glow, we face each other in a silent, tight embrace. Summer Lynn was a phenomenal singer. Money could buy you trending topics on social media, but couldn't buy you fans willing to pay to hear you sing. As the dim lights brightened one by one and raindrops began to appear on the big screen behind her, the entire stadium fell silent. Only her ethereal voice echoed in the air. Leo knew Summer was telling a story. Their story. She was so immersed in it that you could faintly see the tears glistening at the corners of her eyes. So many scenes must have been flooding her mind. The chill of the cold rain on her skin, the metallic smell in the air, the blare of car horns, the red lights countdown. Leo wanted to get lost in it, too. It was his story, after all. He had played an important role, but he couldn't. The only thing he could picture was a conference room, because that's where he'd heard this story from Summer's own lips. Searching for the past, for those warm days of the past. They've disappeared. Disappeared. The part that belonged to him had disappeared. This was the real feeling Leo got after hearing every story. He was envious. Everyone else could stand from their own perspective and tell the complete story of their past emotional journey. But what about his part of that journey? Maybe Leo should have screamed at his past self. Leo, tell me, did I love them? Did I really toss and turn all night, sick with love? Was I ever weak? Leo, I don't want to hear anyone else's interpretation of me. I don't want what they think. I want what I think. A concert is another form of alcohol. It provides a dark environment and an emotional release valve. But Leo didn't cry. He just closed his eyes and sank into the song. On a cobalt night, I'm by your side, hoping you will know. But do you know my heart has changed from what it was before? The spotlight cut through the dry ice fog, revealing Summer's silhouette in her white dress, a fleeting, ghostly image. This was her last concert. It was also her coming-of-age ceremony. How many mistakes does a person have to make to truly grow up? Summer didn't know. She only knew that fate punishes everyone who tries to be tough. Just a bitter smile as I watched the rain, knowing I need to be clear. Whether by years or by experience, she was the one most affected by his amnesia. If it was a good thing that the sad memories were forgotten, then how much happiness was lost in those 8 years of their relationship? But no matter how much you blamed youthful ignorance, some mistakes were just mistakes. Time doesn't give you a do-over. Maybe she and Leo would go their separate ways, each chasing their own dreams. But they had finally grown up. That big star dream that had started in Riverbend Estates had finally come full circle tonight. Do you remember the wishes you secretly wrote on a piece of paper when you were young? 2 years ago, on a cold, rainy night, they had shouted their childish dreams to the world. 2 years later, she stood on stage singing their song, and he sat below, listening. Leo, in his suit, was silently mouthing words. Maybe he was shouting them, but they were lost in the powerful beat of the drums. Luckily, he was sitting close enough. Summer could see him clearly. Leo was saying, "Thank you. Thank you for being willing to tell a forgotten story." Summer gave a slight nod. She was singing. She couldn't speak. But in her heart, she said it back. "Thank you. Thank you for giving a broken girl a happy childhood. Thank you for lifting up a naive girl's innocent dream. Thank you for creating a story I will never, ever forget." In the audience, Peyton remained quiet. She hadn't intended to steal anyone's story. It belonged to someone else. No one could take it. She kept stealing glances at Leo's profile. "I brought tissues," she said, pulling a pack from her purse. "I'm not crying. They're for your hands." Leo took the tissues and looked at them, complaining loudly. "I use dollar store tissues. Using the $2 kind is just forgetting where you came from. I swiped them from the janitor's closet. Swipe a couple packs for me, too." Peyton really wanted to tell him that they needed to get ready to go backstage. 2 more song requests, and Summer would be heading off for her break. They were running out of time, but she didn't say anything. "Shouldn't we be heading backstage?" Leo asked, turning to her. Peyton shook her head. She reached her hand down along the armrest. A pack of tissues was placed in her hand. "Damn, you're taking back the tissues you stole?" Peyton didn't say a word, just tossed the pack aside. She extended her hand again. This time, she didn't wait. She took Leo's hand. Leo instinctively tried to pull back, his fingers twitching, but she squeezed firmly, holding on tight. If he tried to pull away now, it would cause a scene. He turned his head, looking at her with confusion. But Peyton still said nothing. She pulled up the armrest between them and scooted closer to him, resting her head on his shoulder. When her soft body leaned against him, Leo clearly froze. Peyton didn't want to ask a single question. She knew that even if she did, all she'd get in return would be something like, "Tired and need someone to lean on? That'll be $5 a minute." And what would she ask anyway? This is your ex-girlfriend's concert. She's on stage singing your story. At least 10,000 people are moved by it. The audience must be thinking about what a charismatic man the hero of this story must be. But they would never know that this charismatic man was sitting in the front row, not far from them, rubbing his hands together and preparing to shatter the conspiracy of a powerful family. See, that's how charismatic Leo Miller was. But Leo, why is there such unspeakable sadness in your eyes? After the song request segment ended, Leo and Peyton quietly ducked down and slipped out toward the back. They were completely unaware of a figure behind them, watching their every move. Evelyn Shaw, wearing a mask, sat rigidly in her chair, fighting her discomfort. A crowded place like this was still a huge challenge for her. If Leo hadn't just appeared on screen, she would have already given up and gone home. She knew Leo and Peyton had other things to do, but she had her own business to attend to. "I hope our plans don't conflict." Weaving through the bustling backstage corridors, Leo, and Peyton finally reached Summer Lynn's dressing room. Her agent was about to yell at them for intruding, but looked up and saw two familiar faces. "Boss, you can step out for a minute." "Okay." The room emptied, leaving just the two of them. "Summer will definitely come to confront me about why I stole her story," Peyton said, signaling that her part was done. Leo picked up the thread. "The Reverend should only need a short clip of the confrontation. And then, what do? We wait. We wait for him to negotiate with me." "He'll negotiate with you?" Peyton didn't understand the logic, but Leo's expression was confident. Any plan has two key points: the conditions and the objective. His uncle's plan wasn't hard to guess. In fact, he was practically guiding Leo to think along these lines. Looking back at their two meetings, it was easy to make some educated guesses. At their first meeting, aside from abstract questions about being a fish or a person, the Reverend had given him a fish. What did that fish accomplish? It got the fence-sitters in the family to give him $2 million, which allowed him to buy the shares in Apex Media, which ultimately led to this concert. At their second meeting, his uncle had given him another hint, asking if he wanted to pick a more auspicious date for his engagement dinner. The subtext was clear: the engagement party doesn't matter, but you have to go to the concert. So the concert was the most important condition, more important than anything else. Besides the large crowd, high visibility, and rapid-fire media spread, Leo couldn't think of any other reason why it was so crucial. So the choice his uncle was giving him was, essentially, "I'm going to use this to mess with the Miller family. Are you with me or not?" Again, his uncle's goal wasn't for Leo to die, nor was it for Leo to willingly walk into a trap. The goal was to create an impact. And Leo had already shown his uncle his preliminary choice by cooperating with the first part of the narrative, the ex-girlfriend's confrontation. Since he'd shown his sincerity, the next step was for his uncle to negotiate. For Leo, this step was critical. It was the only way to verify if his guess was correct. Peyton was struggling to keep up with his logic. She was about to ask another question when they heard a knock on the door. The intermission had begun. Summer Lynn had arrived. Leo spoke quickly. "Call Connor. Tell him to get over here and take pictures." "What? Hurry up. I need to direct him." Time was short. Peyton immediately dialed, but the moment she did, she felt herself suddenly flying. Leo had lifted her up and set her down on the vanity table in the dressing room. In her panic, her phone almost fell to the floor. She had to wrap one arm around Leo's neck to keep her balance while fumbling for the phone with her other hand. "Hello, Connor. Can you come to Summer Lynn's dressing room?" "What? You're right outside? The Reverend sent you." Peyton looked at Leo in shock. She was completely baffled. Leo hadn't said a single word to the Reverend Wild. How? What shocked her even more were Leo's hands, which were moving all over her. Peyton tensed up. "Leo, right now? God, what time do you think it is to be thinking about that? Just mess up your clothes a little. Don't expose anything." "Oh, okay. If you're going to act, you have to go all in. If it's a secret affair, it has to look like one." Leo helped muss up her clothes, making it look like she had just hastily thrown them on. But he felt something was missing. "Right. Is there a way to make your eyes look dazed? My face gets red when I drink. Where am I supposed to find you a drink now?" They could already hear Summer's voice outside the door. They couldn't wait any longer. At that moment, Peyton's reaction was faster than Leo's. She wrapped one arm around his, and with her other hand, she pulled his hand and placed it on her chest. What could look more like a secret affair than an actual secret affair? She'd already considered death. What was a little thing like this? Everything now was a bonus, a thrill. Her lips brushed against his skin, her tongue darting out to trace a slow circle before she whispered, "You smell so good." "Not this. Not here. We have to take care of business first. I haven't washed my hands, so maybe don't touch there." Summer Lynn pressed her ear to the crack in the door, listening to Leo's voice from inside, nearly dying of anxiety. The second she got off stage, she had rushed to the dressing room. She had to ask Peyton why she had stolen her story. The door wasn't even locked, but the people inside weren't telling her to come in, so she couldn't just open it. Those 2 minutes felt like an eternity. Finally, a voice from inside said, "Come in." Summer quickly told the others not to follow her in or look. She opened the door just a crack and peeked inside. She had imagined what the scene might be, but what she saw shattered all her expectations. How do you describe a scene of a secret affair? You probably need a secluded corner, a disheveled man and woman, and scattered clothing. What the hell, you two? Summer stormed in, but after she entered, she clapped a hand over her mouth, her face a mask of pure shock. No, it's not what you think. We didn't do anything," Leo said quickly, straightening his clothes. Peyton remained silent, focusing only on fixing her own attire. From the crack in the door, a phone camera naturally appeared. Connor had been filming the whole thing from the very beginning. The disheveled couple, the scattered clothes, and Summer's confrontation. He captured it all. The first part of the story was complete. Her furious, questioning, and shocked expression were perfect. Then he was tackled by a group of people. Are you kidding? What kind of professional agent would let a video like that leak? This plan would never have worked without Leo's cooperation. But Leo was very cooperative. He shouted, Connor, get in here. Let me see what you just filmed. Huh? Should I show you? Show me? Or wait for a beating? Leo pointed to the menacing-looking agent outside, then closed the door and took Connor's phone. What is this garbage? There's no narrative arc. This thing needs a narrative arc. Of course it does. Listen to my direction. Leo, now in full director mode, adjusted Connor's position. First, shake the camera a bit when you're filming. It adds to the authenticity. Second, don't film horizontally. Be more casual. Third, don't have all three people in the shot at the same time. That's too fake. Connor nodded, bewildered. Leo turned to give instructions to actor number 1, Summer Lynn, and actor number 2, Peyton. It's unclear what he said, but they both looked utterly shocked after hearing it. Peyton tugged on his arm. Are you sure this will work? All the Reverend wants is a confrontation. He won't care about the process, so we can slip some of our own stuff in, Leo said confidently. A complete story of an ex-girlfriend catching her man cheating required 2 parts. The first was the ex-girlfriend's furious confrontation, where the audience's emotions would be channeled through Summer's perspective. The second was the actual content of their conversation, and that's where Leo would start adding his own narrative. The second act officially began. Connor hid in a corner of the dressing room, holding his breath and filming with a shaky hand. Summer covered her mouth and shouted in surprise, Peyton, did he hurt you? Summer Lynn, mind your own business, Leo snapped. He pulled his hand away from Peyton and turned, walking out the door with an arrogant swagger. The camera was left with just the 2 women. Summer cautiously approached, helping Peyton fix her messy hair. Peyton, did he bully you again? I'm used to it. Connor wanted to keep filming, but Leo tapped him on the shoulder and stopped him. The video could end there. Peyton looked at Leo, confused. Can you explain this to me? No rush to explain. Let's wait for the phone call first. You're that sure the Reverend will call you? If it's the Reverend who calls, it means we might have to take a gamble. If it's Uncle Rick who calls, then this is already a done deal. Peyton's face was a mask of confusion. She couldn't grasp the logic. How did Uncle Rick get involved in this? At the Miller estate, the lakeside cabin had a very rare visitor. So rare, he hadn't been there in decades. The Reverend Wild, Edward Miller. Grandpa Miller lay in bed, an oxygen machine humming beside him. The sheer number of wrinkles on his face had reduced his eyes to mere slits. He struggled to open them, trying to make out the visitor's face. Edward, well, look at you. Guess I can put away the funeral clothes. I thought you were dead. This was how it was with an old father and an old son. One old man wishing an even older old man would die sooner. In the room, besides the medical team, were Rick Miller and Mr. Vance, sitting at a table drinking tea. Mr. Vance kept his head down, sipping his tea without interjecting. He knew the patriarch was in poor health, but he hadn't realized it was this bad. Even speaking was an effort. This made the speech he had prepared completely pointless. He had originally planned to come an advocate for his son-in-law. Who was his son-in-law, you ask? Leo, of course. Mr. Vance was genuinely worried about his daughter's future. Logically, a girl with her credentials shouldn't have any trouble getting married, but her temper was just too foul. To finally find someone his daughter liked, who was from a comparable family, and who could actually handle her temper. Mr. Vance had woken up laughing from his dreams several times. He had even been prepared to get on his knees and bow to the old man. A junior bowing to a senior was no great shame. No matter what, Leo had to be his son-in-law. His daughter was marrying him, and that was that. Seeing the Reverend Wild enter, Mr. Vance knew he should leave. It wasn't right to pry into another family's affairs, but he had to make his point before he left. Patriarch, it's Mr. Vance. Did Leo send you here as his cavalry? Mr. Vance felt the pressure from the old man and stumbled over his words. Yes. Well, when you get to my age, you'll understand. A child's wish is. Why get to my age? The patriarch's voice was too hoarse to read any emotion. I should be so lucky to be your age. He didn't dwell on it, just waved a hand, dismissing him. Mr. Vance took the hint and left, signaling for Rick not to see him out. He knew that when a man was this frail, he had already let go of many things. He no longer had the energy to manage them. Perhaps he should go talk to his future-in-law. Frank Miller was a bit of a thug, but at least they'd met a few times before. Edward, no matter how much resentment you hold in your heart, Let the grievances of the past generation end here. You say it starts, you say it stops. Edward plopped down in a rocking chair without a care in the world, picking at his feet. He looked like any other scruffy old man, a stark contrast to his handsome, well-dressed younger brother, Rick. He turned his head to look at him. Rick, nice work. I knew you'd help your big brother out. What are you talking about? Still playing dumb? You're the one who secretly let Frank out, aren't you? Brought in his Boston crew to back him up. I was putting out fires last night. I didn't have time for that. Rick calmly sipped his tea. I won't argue with you about that. Where's Frank? Edward took a pear and bit into it, munching as he spoke. He's still the most ruthless one. Knocked the whole damn gate down. Someone exiled from the family cannot stay in the house. Get him back here. We need to have the old man settle his affairs while he's still lucid. Edward put on a whiny voice. After all, Frank was wronged 20 years ago. Shouldn't he get some compensation now? Just hurry up and announce Leo as the heir, and let Frank come back to support his son. Edward had pear peel stuck in his beard, but he was grinning from ear to ear. He laughed for a full 5 minutes before stopping to catch his breath. That's just like the old man. You work your ass off for 20 years, and with a few light words about compensation, it's all gone. There's no family more heartless than the Millers. Hearing this, Rick shook his head. He frowned, took a piece of paper, and carefully wrapped up the pear bits his brother had sprayed everywhere before tossing in the trash. His words were as sharp as ever. Brother, you're too old to be believing rumors. You must be buying a lot of snake oil supplements these days. Rumors? If my guess is a rumor, then what your own son said. I like to tell my son little white lies. After the incident with Mel, Rick knew that if he didn't keep up with the times, he'd be left behind. He'd been spending a lot more time online recently. Edward suddenly froze, the chewing motion in his mouth stopping. He shot up and pointed a finger at Rick's nose. Rick, you're messing with me on purpose? Brother, I had no idea you and Ethan were in such close contact. So all that talk about the patriarch wanting to compensate Frank, that was all for my benefit. A conversation between a father and son is for the son to hear. If the son hears it, it's right. If an outsider hears it, of course it's wrong. Rick took a sip of tea and stared silently at the glittering surface of the lake under the setting sun. Edward slammed his hand on the table. Rick, whose side are you on? As the nominal head of this family, I can only stand on the side of the family. Just like the old man. It's my duty. Duty. If it's your duty, then why won't you let Leo be the heir? I have never said Leo cannot be the heir. I just have to control him until the patriarch passes away. Why? Rick Miller raised his head to meet his older brother's gaze, his tone becoming resolute. Because once Leo gains power, what you did back then can no longer be hidden. I've always been a carefree wanderer. You killed Frank's mother, Rick stated, his voice like iron. Edward laughed openly. Yes, it was me. So what? Do you have proof? Rick ignored the question. If that comes out, the Miller family will be thrown into chaos. I've always been a carefree wanderer. No one cares if you die, but the patriarch does, Rick continued. Because you were his biological son. Being his biological son didn't stop me from being kicked out so two bastards could fight over the family inheritance, Edward shot back. That's because you were useless. So useless that a family as big as the Millers needed Frank to go out and fight tooth and nail for territory. Rick, I admit you have a silver tongue. You've managed to put yourself on a pedestal without anyone noticing, Edward said, slamming his teacup down on the table. But you don't treat Leo as one of your own either, do you? I've only ever done 3 things regarding Leo. First, I brought him home. Second, I approved his funding at the family dinner. And third, I've repeatedly advised him to choose the quiet life of a wealthy heir. Rick was perfectly composed, not a hint of fear on his face. But Edward let out a dry laugh. Showing off your fatherly love as the head of the family again? But ever since the old man forced me to step down by faking my entry into a monastery, I haven't been a Miller. I've been a wildling. If you're trying to mock me and Frank, you might as well just call us bastard reverends. Bastards are illegitimate children. You two don't even qualify as that. We don't even know who your father is. If you're not wild, what are you? Allow me to correct you. Frank and I are the sons of the patriarch's old army comrade. To avoid gossip within the family, he found 2 women to raise us separately on the outside, then brought us back and claimed we were his illegitimate sons who had been living elsewhere. So Frank's mother wasn't his real mother? Then what has he been so angry about all these years? Edward was curious. Frank and I are full brothers. My adoptive mother, that is, your second mother, told me the truth before she died. Rick's brow smoothed out as he answered the next question. As for why Frank is so angry, is the grace of giving birth the only grace? Is the grace of raising someone not also grace? So Frank knows your brothers? That's why I can go abroad every so often and not get blown to smithereens by one of his bombs. Rick was unusually talkative today. After Frank's mother died, I told him the truth about us being brothers to stop that mad dog from chasing after me every day. You didn't tell him I was the killer? No. I even restricted his activities in the country. That's why he only ever threatens me, but never actually tries to blow me up. Because there is resentment, but no pure hatred. Edward looked as if he'd just heard something unbelievable plopping down on the table. So you're saying you're doing all this as the head of the family to prevent chaos? No, it's to prevent the patriarch from having to bury his own son. Rick walked over and tucked the old man's blanket in, then turned back. A small favor can create gratitude, but a large one can create resentment. You killed Frank's mother, which turned me and my own brother against each other. That is a debt of hatred that must be repaid. But the patriarch took us in and raised us like his own sons. That is a debt of kindness we dare not forget. Rick walked up to his brother, staring him in the eyes. Before the patriarch goes, everything must remain peaceful under my control. But the patriarch is going soon, which means you are very close to death. Rick, you have a black heart, Edward said, but there was no fear in his eyes, only a wide grin. Do you have any idea what's happening at the concert right now? Honestly, I don't, Rick admitted freely. That's not like you. There's no point in me knowing anything that involves Leo, because I can't control him. Rick rubbed his face. In Leo's eyes, there isn't a single good person in the Miller family. Exactly. That's why I hired him. The second generation of bastards fighting amongst themselves is already interesting. Having it broadcast online to deliver a fatal blow to the Miller family is even more interesting. It won't happen, Rick said, shaking his head. Rick, you don't understand Leo. That kid is more interesting than any of you. Edward stood up, his face beaming with pride. The car crash was originally my setup to bring Leo into the family. If he died, it would be another case of brother killing brother. If he didn't, he would return to the family seeking revenge. But I didn't expect Frank to find out and get that wanted fugitive to protect his son, to give him a chance to come home. Of course, I was happy to see that too. But then the kid went and threw himself into the path of the car. He's truly insane. I have no idea what he's trying to do. Hearing this, Rick smiled faintly, cleared his throat, and asked a seemingly random question. Brother, do you know why I said you're the killer? You're a smart man. You must have guessed. Guessing isn't enough. Something this big requires evidence. Even after the patriarch is gone, if I want to take you down, I'll have to deal with the pressure from all those old geezers in the family. A bastard trying to take down the only biological son. Gaining their support is the most important thing. Rick didn't wait for his brother to respond, but continued on his own. Silas called me on the day of the car crash. He said a bunch of strange things, something about Leo being his employee, and if Leo died, he would definitely pay us a visit. Honestly, at first I wanted to laugh. That kind of threat is just so childish. But then I listened again and realized Silas is clearly not a childish person. I knew about the car crash at the time, but I had no intention of getting involved. It was a mess, and whoever touched it would get dirty. Frank was afraid I'd restrict him, so he blew up a ship overseas to force my hand. I took the opportunity to step away, since I knew Leo wouldn't get hurt and everything would calm down. It wasn't until I heard Leo was actually covered in blood that I suddenly realized something big was about to happen. So I remembered what Silas had said and sent someone to the crash site to get Leo. But not only did I fail to get him, even Frank couldn't get him. That's when I realized that Leo was trying to tell me something behind Frank's back. His insane act made me extremely curious. So I tried to learn about this nephew I'd never met from Peyton. Later, I found a message in my spam folder. It mentioned some things about the past. I started to boldly speculate about what Leo was thinking. He had gotten his hands on evidence, but he was avoiding Frank. Because he didn't care if Frank got his revenge, he only cared if his own quiet life would be affected. But with the information he had, he couldn't figure out the family dynamics. So he tried to use the aftermath of the crash to judge who wanted him dead and who didn't. But even before that, he had already come to a conclusion. Someone definitely didn't want Frank to know the truth, and that person was most likely me, the head of the family. Because the email said, Frank Miller doesn't know I have the evidence. If anyone tries to mess with me or my mother again, this evidence goes straight to him. Actually, the sender's name was blank. It just had the number 1. Logically, I couldn't be sure it was Leo, but in the bottom right corner, his signature was, keep acting like a dick and I'll fucking end you. That sounded like Leo's style. So, after I heard he had amnesia, I went to the Reed family's birthday party. I tried to repeatedly mention the word evidence in front of him, but he had no reaction. That's when I knew. He had probably forgotten. Leo was on the other end of the phone, listening in on everything. While Rick was talking to Edward, he had secretly dialed Peyton, the Miller family's ancestral move, making a secret phone call while revealing the truth. Well now, the truth was coming out fast. I sound so ruthless, Leo said, turning to Peyton. So where did I put the evidence? I don't know, Peyton said, shaking her head. You never mentioned any evidence to me. Then the evidence probably doesn't exist. Leo nodded with certainty. It made sense. If Frank had been searching for 20 years and found nothing, how could he have found it so easily? Huh. Then why did Rick make this call to you? To negotiate, of course. Leo sat on the table, swinging his legs. He's right. There isn't a single good person in the Miller family. I'd love to see the family caught in a media firestorm. The bigger the mess, the happier I am. And Rick is the one who cares most about the family's interests. That's why he's in such a hurry to tell me the truth. The subtext is, don't blow things up yet. The reason this hasn't been resolved internally is just because there's no proof. Leo figured if he were the patriarch, he'd have chosen Rick to lead the family too. The man could keep a secret. He held all that in his heart and still acted like nothing was wrong. Peyton looked down, still confused. I get that part, but can you tell me about the filming just now? The answer to that will be revealed soon. Just wait for the Reverend's call. Speak of the devil. Peyton's phone rang again. Leo, the Reverend Wild's voice was urgent. You must be dying to see the Miller family embroiled in a scandal, right? Not especially. Leo, cooperation is the best way out. Don't forget, Connor has already sent me 2 videos. With just those, I can at least ruin Summer Lynn and Peyton's reputations. Damn, you're ruthless, Leo said through gritted teeth, playing the part of a cornered man perfectly. But after he hung up, a huge grin spread across his face. He was laughing, genuinely happy. Listen to that, he said to Peyton. An old man trying to play internet games. It's hilarious. Leo, did we make a mistake by filming that ourselves? If we hadn't, would Rick have opened his mouth? Leo hopped off the table. Don't worry about the video, because we used the most comment-bait filming method possible. First, during the song request, I said a few things to the audience. It wasn't to grab the spotlight. It was to establish a narrative for you and Summer. The story of my childhood with Summer has a history online. Once the concert video ferments a little and people start digging, Summer will immediately be cast as the victim. Everyone will sympathize with her for being played the fool. Then, when the cheating video gets shared, your narrative is established too. Because Summer, the fool, is asking you, did he bully you again? Even though we only added 2 lines for authenticity, because Summer's narrative is already set, your pitiful narrative will be established right alongside it. People will have a sudden realization. In this sensationalized cheating story, the 2 women are just playthings in the dirty games of a rich young master. They're victims too. The old Reverend has no idea that in this day and age, creating conflict is the key to going viral. When some rational people comment, well, you brought this on yourselves, the righteous feminist warriors will absolutely rush out to defend you. The end result is, even if the video gets out, at least you and Summer won't be seen as the villains everyone loves to hate. Leo smiled, relaxed. Now that the truth was out, the target was clear. It seemed like taking out his uncle would solve everything. After all, Rick had said that he and Frank were full brothers and had never done anything to hurt Leo. Leo had to admit that was true. But by the same token, Leo wasn't going to feel any gratitude, because every single thing Rick did was motivated by the family's interests. So we still have to film the video. It's the prerequisite for forcing Rick to make concession. He's made one now, but it's not enough. Ethan Miller emerged from the dressing room, one hand on his lower back, his steps unsteady as he headed toward his destination, Summer Lynn's dressing room. His mission was to pull the knife from his waistband and plunge it into his dear cousin. No matter how much scheming and backstabbing was going on, it seemed to have nothing to do with him. Everything had been designed in advance. All he had to do was wait quietly and, at the right moment, deliver the knife. The process had nothing to do with him, and the outcome had nothing to do with him. It had always been this way. He arrived at the dressing room, his face pale, and saw Connor standing at the door holding a phone. Ethan, you look. Get lost. Ethan, I'm getting lost, but it looks like they're not ready in there yet. Maybe you should wait a bit before you go in. What else is there to prepare for? My cousin and Leo are still sitting face to face, just talking. They're not doing anything intimate. Ethan shot him a sideways glance and pushed the door open. After entering, he saw his fiancée leaning on his cousin's shoulder. He didn't want to say another word. The rest of it had nothing to do with him. All he had to do was plunge the knife into. Cousin, care to chat? Leo patted the sofa, offering him a seat. There's nothing to talk about. Oh, but there is. You helped me meet my sales quota at the lounge. You're my client. Keep it. I don't care. That's fine. But there's one thing I'm curious about. Leo looked like a curious child. When you're engaged in your trysts, are you a top or a bottom? Why are you asking that? Ethan frowned. Peyton nudged him and whispered, you don't need surgery to be a top. What led Leo to this conclusion was a simple observation. Otherwise, why is it that whenever someone attacks you, you always just bend over and wait for it? The two cousins had walked completely opposite paths. Born into a powerful family, being controlled was their destiny. A life of luxury didn't come for free. Leo had countless opportunities to be a coward. Faced with massive information gaps, wealth disparities, and all sorts of temptations, he could have chosen to take a step back and let things be. So what if he was being controlled? Being a rich heir would be a pretty good life. It certainly looked good, but some things, you can't know the outcome until they actually happen. From the car crash onward, Ethan had been passively accepting everything, just going with the flow. But Leo, like a big idiot, had screamed and shouted that he wouldn't accept it. This difference in attitude sometimes made onlookers think he was stupid. Leo, why are you always acting so stubborn? Who are you so angry at? But when the results were laid bare, people would finally understand. If Leo hadn't chosen the path he walked, he would have become Ethan. No matter what you say, I'm about to be free. Can you understand how I feel? Ethan's smile was tragic. I hate listening to rich people complain. And if you're going to complain, don't demand empathy from us peasants. Leo shot him a dismissive look. This was his last attempt to save Ethan. Cousin, trust me this one time. I can give you what you want. Leo stood before him. Cousin, I don't want to kill you. On the contrary, I admit you're a decent guy. I know that. Tell me something I don't know. The source of all this is her. Ethan pointed a finger at Peyton's nose, his expression turning hysterical as he stood up. Do you know what I've been doing these past few days? I've been looking for your records. And guess what I found? Records of your communications with the Reverend, the details of the car crash plan. I found everything. You're the real criminal here. Perhaps because of all the pressure he'd been holding inside, Ethan started shouting. Leo, and you're still pitying her? She's a vicious, black-hearted woman. What damn insemination plan? Her getting into the Miller family had nothing to do with that. She got in by using her good relationship with you. She approached you without your knowledge, tricked you into feeling sorry for her, and built an intimate relationship. She used that relationship to find the Reverend and propose the car crash plan herself. None of this should have happened. It's all because of this disgusting woman. Leo's ears were practically bleeding from hearing this story. He believed it, but he knew it wasn't the whole truth. All the clues pointed to him and Peyton planning it together. Don't listen to his bullshit. It's just the impotent rage of a moron, Leo said, still smiling as he tried to comfort her. Leo, he's right. But Peyton's eyes held a new frankness. We did plot together, but that was only part of the car crash plan. To put it simply, I backstabbed you. This was the leverage. The Reverend had detailed evidence proving Peyton's betrayal. The plan had explicitly stated, feign a plot with Leo Miller in order to gain his trust. Why had Peyton chosen suicide? If she had just been honest about everything like the other women, Leo might not have loved her, but he certainly wouldn't have hurt her. But what if the past was ugly? Leo was no saint. Would he really be willing to protect someone who had gained his trust only to stab him in the back? Peyton shook her head. She had brought all of this upon herself. She even envied Summerlin. In her eyes, the conflict between Summer and Leo was like a childish game of house. Hearing Peyton's words, Leo wasn't overly surprised. It was never surprising when a bad woman had done bad things in her past. Let's just get the act over with, he said, shaking his head. Now is not the time to deal with this. They had to film the video first. Next, they needed to shoot a scene of Ethan angrily confronting the cheating couple. In the story, Ethan would lunge with a knife. Leo wasn't going to get stabbed. Only an idiot would. Just faking it would be enough. Storytelling required leaving things to the imagination. A single shot of the motion would suffice. As for how not to get stabbed, that would test Leo's skills. He was confident that if he was consciously trying to dodge, he wouldn't get hit. I might not be able to slide tackle a tiger, but I can at least dodge a knife. While keeping a close eye on Ethan's movements, Leo quickly scanned the dressing room. He'd have Connor film from the same position. He and Ethan would just yell at each other. A few minutes of video, that's all. Should he try to make the shot more artistic? It would be great if some light was streaming in through a window. Damn it, the dressing room didn't have a window. Hold on before you make a move, Leo said to Ethan without turning around. First, think about your lines to build up the emotion. You can't stab someone without feeling it. But out of the corner of his eye, he saw Ethan slowly drawing the knife. He glanced at Ethan's trembling body and couldn't help but smile. He wasn't a professional killer. Of course he was nervous, like a simp on his first date. Leo even glanced at the door. Seeing the phone camera there, he relaxed. Fine, no need for artistic beauty. Just get this over with. This part of the filming would be much simpler than Summer's part. The farcical scene of the knife attack was even simpler than imagined. It was just a man, shaking from head to toe, staggering forward to deliver the blow. How nervous was he? Probably as nervous as a court minister presenting a priceless treasure to a paranoid emperor. The target only needed to take a small step to the side to be completely out of the danger zone. After taking that half step and executing a perfect dodge, the intended victim broke into a smile. Leo couldn't help but mutter, "Ethan, my boy, you need more practice." "What the fuck?" Leo froze. Blood, which should not have been there, appeared, dripping slowly like water from a rusty faucet. No one would have failed to be stunned. Clang! The bloody short knife fell to the floor. Ethan collapsed backward, laughing with relief at the ceiling. "Cousin, you're a good guy. How could I ever attack you?" He began to scream maniacally. The one who should die is her. The blood was coming from Peyton, who had fallen to the ground. It took Leo a second to regain his composure. He rushed to her side. "Are you an idiot? It wasn't even going to hit me. Why did you block it for me?" He frantically took off his jacket, pressing it against her wound, and scrambled for her bag to get her phone and call 911. "Leo, if it weren't for me, you'd probably be enjoying a peaceful life right now." Peyton seemed to cherish the sight of Leo panicking over her. "It was my greed that dragged you into this storm. Without me, your uncle would have never had a chance to get close to you. Don't talk about the past." Peyton pointed to the phone recording at the door. It held the evidence of Ethan's attack. "Your Uncle Rick loves Ethan very much. He probably had a plan ready to get Ethan out of this, but now he can't." She pointed again at the phone. The video held the evidence of Ethan's murder attempt. The complete record. Leo fell silent. After a long moment, he spoke slowly. "If I want to take Ethan down, I would have done it long ago. I didn't need you to—" "Leo, but you want a peaceful life, don't you?" Peyton stated the truth. "Only by holding something over Rick's head can you live in peace forever." She clutched his sleeve, gazing at the man's face, so close to hers. All this turmoil had started because of her. She had approached Leo with a purpose, used his trust to get close to the Miller family. The car crash plan would have been impossible without her. Likewise, without her, Leo might still be far away from the Millers. In a bad woman's eyes, men were supposed to be tools, used to get the rewards you deserved. But how did she end up like this? Because of greed, not for money or status. In her worldview, wanting money and status wasn't greed. Who didn't want those things? But wanting love at the same time. That was greed. How could this story, a tangled web of interest and emotion, be told in a way that was both acclaimed and popular? Peyton could hear the faint sound of music drifting in from the main stage. "And what else do I have left to give to you?" Her story was not a glorious one, so it would not be left behind. From Peyton's perspective, every story the other women told was a victor's declaration. Evelyn Shaw was telling a story of two emotionally starved patients saving each other. Isabella Vance was telling a story of a sugar mama breaking through social prejudice to pursue her boy toy again and again. Summer Lynn was just straight up showing off her deep, emotional history. They were all victors. Only victors get to tell their stories. The ones that aren't so glorious are doomed to be hidden in the sewers, becoming nothing but filthy grime. But that didn't stop her from replaying them in her mind. When she thought of the funny parts, she still wanted to smile. Like how after his amnesia, Leo would always ask her, "Cousin-in-law, you're not married, so why do you always dress like you're a young housewife?" Or his internal question, "Why isn't my cousin-in-law resistant to my physical touch?" Peyton always met these questions with a smile and silence. All those questions could be answered with one simple truth. And she had already answered it, secretly, in her heart, many times. "Because I was married to you before." Peyton's story was the first one Leo had ever heard. The tale of the country affair between a cousin and his cousin-in-law. But compared to the others, her story was too short. Everyone else's story went right up to the car crash. Why did hers end on the night they sang together? According to the timeline, this was before Leo had been taken in by a certain dominant CEO. Did they have no contact after that? Of course not. In fact, they had stayed in that small mountain village for several days. The morning after that night, they had originally planned to leave. But Earl had moved a stool and planted himself in front of the door, playing the rogue. "I don't object to you marrying this kid, but you have to let me come to the wedding, right?" "It's too far. It wouldn't be convenient for you," Peyton refused. "Young man, you be the judge. What kind of father doesn't attend his own daughter's wedding? He can attend, but if he's not bringing a dowry, he should at least bring a wedding gift, right?" Leo knew exactly how to handle him, cutting straight to the point. Earl turned out his empty pockets, signaling that he was short on cash. He switched tactics. Daughter, it's fine if I don't go to the wedding, but you have to have a pre-wedding dinner here at home, right? You don't want to host a dinner, you want to collect gift money, Peyton said, knowing her father's character all too well. I have to collect gift money. I've been giving it out for years. Earl, his true intentions revealed, sat on the stool and looked at his daughter with pitiful eyes. Peyton was caught in a dilemma. Marriage was a big deal. If she didn't resolve this now, Earl would cause trouble sooner or later. It was better to handle it now, while she was home, and save herself the excuses later. So she looked at Leo, asking if it was feasible. Leo caught her glance, put down his bowl of porridge, and settled the matter. Fine. We split the gift money 50-50. Young man, 50-50 is a bit. Then we're leaving? You won't get a cent. Fine. 50-50. The matter was happily decided, though Earl was the only one who wasn't entirely happy. He kept trying to find opportunities to haggle with Leo, but ultimately, his share was cut down to a 30-70th split. Peyton got 70, Earl got 30. We have jobs in the city. Do you know how much we get fined for missing work? You can get at least a few thousand from the gifts. You don't need to. Then I'm leaving. Don't go. You should pay for the banquet, right? I'm providing the groom and paying for the food. Then I'm leaving. Don't go. It's settled. With things decided, Peyton privately asked Leo about his fee. Just a little something for my trouble. 50,000. You're too generous, boss. Leo bowed in thanks. And your girlfriend? She'll understand. It's for money. Thank you, Leo. I didn't think about this before I came. Peyton's face was full of apology. Leo picked up a fallen chicken feather from the ground, held it in his palm, and blew on it. The feather danced in the air before he caught it again. He played this game tirelessly. It's a business transaction. You and I are both willing parties. Just don't forget to help out your poor buddy when you make it big in the family. What do you want? Peyton wrapped her coat tighter around herself and took the feather duster to sweep the dust off the bed. Money, power, or beautiful women. I want rivers and seas, the eternal sun and moon, an immortal soul, and a body ascended through mechanical augmentation. Say something I can understand. Peyton rolled her eyes beautifully. Hee, just kidding. Can you take me to the local market day? Leo's expression didn't look like he was faking. He even swallowed hard. The millet porridge from that morning clearly wasn't part of this carnivore's usual diet. It was nowhere near enough to satisfy the big appetite of this hungry boy. Peyton looked up at Leo's face. Then her gaze drifted down to his throat as he swallowed, the movement of his Adam's apple clearly visible. She turned her head away, trying to escape the heady atmosphere of the early morning. The hungry girl might have been getting a little hungry herself. Cockroach poison, rat poison. Fried skewers, get your fried skewers. Hot bean paste rolls, get 'em while they're hot. At the bustling rural market, Peyton watched Leo stuff a scalding hot bean bun into his mouth with the speed of a tornado, a resentful look appearing on her face. Is my cooking really that bad? Hiss. How this is so good. Leo's mouth was so hot he was hissing and panting, but he managed to chew. Can you make this? Of course. Teach me when we get back to Riverbend. I'm asking you a question. Peyton, uncharacteristically, stopped walking, her expression serious as she waited for his answer. She didn't even realize she was starting to get annoyed over such a small thing. The pretty lady looks extra pretty today. You're just using flattery to avoid the question. Don't you believe me? Right now, you're in the country, but your heart is in Paris. Even this floral jacket can't hide your amazing figure. Really? Peyton looked down at her clothes. She had bought them at an underground market in the county town. The whole outfit cost a few $dozen. She and Leo had taken off the clothes they brought from Riverbend. Leo didn't answer her, but instead started describing his own outfit. In contrast, our handsome Leo is wearing knockoff old-school cloth shoes, a pair $2, 99 baggy slacks from the big box store, and on top, a tight-fitting t-shirt just like all the cool kids wear. Leo puffed out his chest and gestured at himself, summarizing his fashion sense. More than enough to match a country supermodel like you. So you were just complimenting me to compliment yourself. Peyton pouted. My point is, it's forgivable if a country supermodel can't cook well. So you're still saying my cooking is bad. I said it. What are you going to do about it? Leo threw caution to the wind, a look of pure arrogance on his face. But Peyton wasn't that upset. Instead, she kept looking down at her clothes. Do I really look good? As they walked, Leo suddenly said, by the way, what are you supposed to wear to a pre-wedding dinner? A wedding dress. Normally, you wear an evening gown. The wedding dress is for the wedding day itself. That old cheapskate Earl, is he going to buy us anything? I'll just pay for it, it's fine. In Peyton's eyes, this dinner wasn't that important. It was just a formality. But since Leo had brought it up, she figured she should spend the money. How about I pick an outfit for you? Leo pointed to a large three-wheeled truck. It was a clothing vendor at the market, selling cheap wholesale goods that were very popular with the local grandmas and grandpas. Peyton nodded, then watched helplessly as Leo charged ahead. She had a feeling that ever since arriving here, a certain wild streak in his bones had been unleashed. At first, she had worried he would be disgusted by this place. But now, it seemed like it was a place where he could let his soul run free. "Ma'am, how much for this big floral dress?" "Son, this dress cost me over $100 to buy. If you're serious, I'll give it to you for $80. I'll give you a price." "$60, Leo haggled. "Deal." "Huh." Leo walked back with the floral dress, complaining nonstop that he had offered too high a price. Lack of experience. Peyton took the dress and looked up, confused. "This dress has at least 5 different floral patterns on it. It's festive, colorful, is beautiful. You like seeing me wear this?" Leo nodded earnestly. "And it needs to be paired with one more thing." "What?" "I saw it on the way to the village yesterday. Follow me." Peyton, out of breath, followed Leo up the hillside. As she bent over, clutching her stomach and panting, Leo scrambled up the dirt slope like a monkey, only jumping down 5 minutes later. He held a flower in his hand and presented it to her. Just because a flower was blooming brightly on the other side of the hill, he had picked a branch to bring to her. But after coming down the slope, Leo was full of complaints. "From a distance yesterday, I thought it was a rose. Got my hopes up for nothing. This is a Korean rose. We can't grow roses in this area. I don't care what it is. As long as it looks good in your hair. Getting all dressed up in bright colors might not be a good idea. A lot of people in the village will talk. That's the whole point." Leo plopped down on the slope, panting. "I heard the villagers talking yesterday when I was out. Your reputation doesn't seem to be very good. They say I'm unfilial, that I don't come back to see my father. It's normal for outsiders to see it that way." "It's not that." Leo denied her explanation and repeated a rumor he had heard word for word. "Earl's little girl has the face of Siren. Who knows what she does in the city? Probably a bar girl or a hostess. That's why I changed out of my riverbend clothes in a county town," Peyton admitted. "It's all just envy and jealousy. We should wear the bright, colorful clothes. Is being beautiful a crime? Roses can grow in a place like this, too." Leo seemed to suddenly think of something. He threw out a sentence and started running down the mountain. "I forgot to buy my big floral shirt. I think the market is closing soon. That's a women's style. Who cares if it's for men or women? Just buy the biggest size." Peyton watched Leo's retreating back and laughed for no reason. She had heard him talk before about a girl named Skylar Reed who loved to hang out with him. She thought she understood now. Leo had a magic that could turn anything serious into a game and draw others into enjoying it with him. But roses couldn't grow here, and she wasn't a rose. The mountain flowers bloomed brightly, and she smiled among them. When she was little, she had heard people say roses were beautiful, so she had searched all over the mountains for them. She never found any, but she always believed they existed. It wasn't until years later that she suddenly realized, on this cold, northern land, romantic wild roses could not grow. Peyton watched the figure who, after reaching the bottom of the slope, had somehow hitched a ride on a three-wheeled cart and was now standing shakily in the back, waving and showing off to her. She murmured to herself, "And I can't keep him, either." The gossip in the village was far worse than imagined. People always needed some entertainment, and gossiping behind someone's back was the easiest way. Those who were a bit older and hadn't learned how to gossip online just did it under the old locust tree. It was their tradition. Over the years, that old tree had overheard enough gossip to supply a tabloid with content for years. Earl was handing out invitations under that very tree. Small, red, rectangular cards, fresh from the print shop. "Come one, come all, to the wedding feast." Earl waved his hand, his face beaming with excitement. "Oh, your daughter is back to get married?" A little old lady, leaning on her cane, casually stuffed the invitation into her pocket. She couldn't read, so she didn't even look at it. Kids grow up and leave the nest. If she wants to get married, she'll get married. So your daughter wasted all those years in the city for nothing. My granddaughter graduated from nursing school and found a man who owns a business in the county. Earl's face fell at those words. He finished handing out the invitations and left, leaving a group of people sitting under the tree, wagging their tongues without restraint. "I heard the pay girl went to school on a loan. What bank would give a loan to a young girl like that? I bet she was just fooling around with men. She has such high standards." Earl said he tried to set her up with a rich boss before, but she wasn't interested. "If you ask me, there's something fishy about her getting married all of a sudden. Isn't it obvious? She must have gotten knocked up by some rich guy in the city, and he won't take responsibility, so she had to hurry back and find some poor schmuck to raise the kid." All of this gossip reached Peyton's ears from a short distance away. She was even sure they knew she was standing right there. So what if she heard? They would just pretend not to see her, and if they met, they'd just laugh it off. They chatted more and more enthusiastically, because they were united in their disbelief that Peyton could be doing well in the city. They had reached a consensus. Peyton got pregnant and had to come back to the village to get married. If you were successful, wouldn't that make my grandson who farms for a living or my granddaughter who's a waitress look bad? People only dare to reclaim their missing self-esteem from their own kind. If you're not one of them, then they'll reach a consensus to make you one of them. Mental victory was the true opiate of the masses on this land. Peyton stood her ground, her expression unchanging. This kind of thing couldn't affect her mood in the slightest. At that time, her business had indeed failed, and she was struggling to find a way out of her predicament. But she had been successful once. Years of experience had taught her that anyone who climbs a mountain alone is followed by a chorus of noisy chatter. But she walked right up to them. She leaned in and casually dropped a line to the old lady. Your granddaughter Tammy was asking me for money for an abortion just the other day. With all this time on your hands, you should be more concerned about her. You're full of it. My granddaughter's husband is a business owner. Why would she need to borrow money? Tammy is at the clinic alone. Your grandson-in-law has disappeared, and he still owes her $5,000. My grandson-in-law is a big boss. $5,000 is nothing to him. If running a barbecue stand counts as being a big boss, then the city is full of them. Peyton said slowly, her arms crossed. The old lady panicked, clutching her chest, struggling to breathe. She pointed a finger at Peyton, her mouth spewing vulgarities. But Peyton just casually tossed out another line. After you confirm with Tammy, remember to pay me back the $5,000. Then she pointed at the circle of gossips under the tree. If you don't, you might not be able to participate in the next gathering like this, because the person being talked about will be you and your granddaughter. Under the small bridge, Leo sat by the stream and gave Peyton a thumbs up. That was so cool just now, boss. Peyton shook her head, reluctantly accepting the compliment. A moment ago, Leo had been by her side, itching for a fight. If she hadn't spoken up, he'd probably still be under the locust tree, single-handedly debating the entire council of elders. With his sharp tongue, he could have talked a few of them into an early grave. Peyton, of course, knew about Leo's upbringing. Sometimes she felt they were quite similar, both having clawed their way out of nothing to strive for their goals. It was just that Leo's goals were far more absurd. Leo, with your personal qualities and income level, you could find a much more suitable girlfriend, Peyton said, speaking purely as a friend. Leo wasn't charging her for this trip home. He was helping out as a friend. Charging for the pre-wedding dinner was normal, since it would take several days to prepare and would keep him from his work at the lounge. If he didn't charge, she would feel bad. Then let me say this. With your qualities, you don't need to try to save your career. You could just marry some rich guy. Do you agree with that? Leo stood by the river, skipping stones, without turning his head. My point is there really any love between you two? Peyton looked up, confused. What is love? Leo rolled up his pants and tentatively stepped into the stream. I only know that seeing her be herself makes me happy. I know not everyone has a grand dream. Maybe a lot of people's dream is just to lie in bed for 100 years. At first, I thought Summer was like that maybe being a little follower was her dream. But when she was about to leave, my feelings were actually very complicated. It was a farewell, after all. But deep down, I was happy because she had finally found her own path. A frog that jumped out from between the rocks startled Leo so much that he pointed at it and yelled that it was fighting dirty. He decided to make a decision that would betray his ancestors. Let's taste some roasted toad. At that time, the dynamic between Leo and Peyton was very strange. It was like a precocious stepmother taking her mischievous stepson on an outing. The precocious stepmother still wanted to discuss matters of love with her stepson. But in the end, you might not get anything. I can understand not getting it. I can't understand getting nothing. You might end up with nothing to show for it. Both the money and the girlfriend gone. If we're only looking at the result, then we might as well just change the marriage laws so you can never get divorced, and divorce is punishable by death. Leo turned his head to answer, his palm empty. The kind-hearted Master Leo had ultimately been scared off by the legend of poisonous toads and had let it go. He sat down next to Peyton bored. I think the stuff in my head is the most precious thing. Say something I can understand. Memories. Or experiences, Leo quickly explained. I know this answer isn't very down to earth, but that's what I think. If it was just about getting Summer, the person, I have many ways to do it, including her heart and her body. I could even play some dirty tricks, and with Summer's personality, she'd just meekly do whatever I said. But I don't think that's what I ultimately want in a relationship. Even if I end up with nothing, all alone, these amazing memories will always be a part of me. They'll let me know why, out of the countless men named Leo Miller in the world, I am different. Leo grinned, patting Peyton on the shoulder. I know what you mean. You're probably feeling sorry for me, thinking I shouldn't waste my energy on someone who isn't worth it. I used to be the same way. When I was online, I'd make comments like that. When some influencer couple had a fight, and they'd post a memo and some chat screenshots to expose someone, I'd arrogantly judge who the bad guy was. Then I'd rush to the comments to curse them out, and once I felt good, I'd go to sleep, only to wake up and find out the narrative had completely flipped. I suddenly realized they were playing me for a fool, selectively posting what was beneficial to them to make me a tool for their victory. That's what really made me understand. When you choose to walk the path of love, no one can be a flawless saint. To sum it up, there are no good people in love. Leo landed on that flippant conclusion, then turned his head and noticed the toad that had hopped out of the conversation. In a split second he was about to lunge, Peyton suddenly grabbed his arm. Leo, you seem to have it all figured out, so why are you still bothered by the whole Summer Lynn situation? It's because I have it all figured out that I'm bothered. The most comfortable person in the world is the idiot who doesn't know anything. Leo was annoyed at Peyton's grip on his shoulder. If I could actually live by my own philosophy, I'd change my name to Leo Seneca. Is my problem also that I can't live by my philosophy? Your problem is that you've been wearing the mask for too long. Leo clearly had no interest in debating such lofty questions and cut straight to the point. You were way too aggressive when you were facing that old woman. You have to arm yourself to be respected. Peyton let out a soft laugh, agreeing with his assessment. It was a law etched into her very bones. She turned her head and asked him, weren't you just itching for a fight too? I was genuinely angry. You weren't, so you think what I did was wrong? Of course it was right. I never said wearing a mask is wrong. I'm saying you've been wearing it for too long. Leo pointed at himself. A person needs a break. Like you. Peyton asked. Yeah, there's no one here who matters, so why not do something that makes you happy? Peyton gazed in Leo's direction. In truth, she knew what her problem was. In her eyes, Leo's identity had become blurry. That wasn't a good sign. Leo was supposed to be a tool for her to climb higher. But who can truly live by their own philosophy? Peyton muttered to herself, sitting by the riverbank. She watched Leo splash in the creek, stand against the current, and shout cheesy anime villain lines. I'm the lord of the creek. All you minnows and crayfish, come pay your respects. An unbidden smile bloomed on Peyton's face, and she slowly lay back, her head pillowed by the soft earth. She couldn't do it, but she had tried, because she knew more of the details than Leo did. She knew that behind the seemingly down-on-his-luck Leo, a massive family was still watching him. But what did she have? She had done cold calling, run an MLM scheme, been cursed at, and endured countless condescending looks. All of it was in the hope that she could, through her own means, escape a life of using her looks to get by and finally take control. But in the blink of an eye, it had all gone up in smoke. Bankruptcy had come so suddenly, as easily as pushing over a crumbling wall. Get a grip, Peyton. You only want to have this red dress dinner to stop Earl from causing trouble later. She warned herself repeatedly. Leo was hired with money. When this is all over, nothing will happen. This is your last chance to get back on your feet. Peyton quickly rebuilt her mental defenses. When she looked at Leo again, her eyes held a new distance. This was a mask she couldn't take off. But then she heard the ringing of a phone. It was Leo's, left on the bank before he'd gone into the water. She shouted for him to come back and answer it. See who it is? It's Silas. Damn, the old man is actually efficient for once. Leo strode back to the shore, his feet sinking into the soft mud as he took the phone. Peyton couldn't hear what was being said on the other end, only Leo's voice. You found them all. How much? Couldn't you haggle a bit? We're all in the business. Tell him to cut us a deal. You already haggled? What? You want a finder's fee? I'll be damned. Old man, I'm your top earner. I don't even get that perk. Don't raise the price. Don't raise the price. I'll pay. Leo put down the phone, his face a mask of indignation, and loudly cursed the evil, black-hearted crimes of Silas. Peyton asked tentatively, what did you need Silas for? To help me find a fleet of cars. All top of the line, badass rides. For the pre-wedding dinner. But we don't need a fleet of cars for the dinner. Who cares? We'll just park them out front. It'll look good. Peyton figured the villagers' constant taunts of dirt poor had finally gotten to Leo. Fine, a fleet of cars it was. How much for the cars? I can pay for it. Already paid. Came out to 50 grand. Not sure if that includes the old man's finder's fee. Isn't that the salary I paid you? I never came on this trip with the intention of taking your money. Leo fired off a few more angry texts at Silas, then said, as if to himself, "You've got a problem, don't you? I'll help you fix it." "I don't understand." Leo suddenly changed the subject. "Peyton, do you know why you always want to keep climbing? Climbing is human nature. But other people climb to enjoy the happiness at the destination. Your eyes are only on the climb itself. You've never stopped. Others do it to better enjoy happiness, but you just climb." Peyton was stunned. It was the first time she had ever heard this idea. She gestured for Leo to continue. Leo sat by the water, shaking his head like a wise old man. "Don't blame me for studying you. Analyzing clients is how we make a living. You were never well-liked in this village, so you went off to school. But at school, as a poor kid, you still couldn't gain acceptance, so you wanted to make money as soon as possible. You earned your first pot of gold, but you found that the people around you still didn't accept you. So you started a company, made it bigger and stronger. You'd pause briefly at each level, then keep climbing. So, now that you've made all this money, what exactly are you planning to trade it for?" Hearing this question, Peyton listed many answers. The envious gazes of others, the security of not having to worry about my next meal, the dignity I lost. But as she spoke, her own voice trailed off. It seemed to be none of those things. She suddenly looked up and asked Leo, "So what am I supposed to trade it for?" "Nobody knows." Leo pointed to the small village in the distance, smoke curling up from the chimneys. "Because starting from here, you've never received true acceptance or happiness. So you can only keep searching for it by going higher." Peyton silently turned to look at the village, her arm trembling. "You're the only one who can find your own happiness. But as for getting acceptance, I can help with that." Leo patted her shoulder, signaling for her to calm down. "Let me tell you a story. The day Silas saved me, some guy scammed me out of my money. I went to his house with a knife. I had to let him know you don't just screw me over. Then I got my ass kicked and thrown out. Later, his propane tank exploded and he ended up in the hospital. Silas came up with all these high-level ways to get revenge. Hiring some muscle, setting a trap to get him locked up for a few years. They all sounded satisfying as hell, but I refused. I just bought a fruit basket, went to his bedside, and asked for my money back. And I told him, very seriously, you shouldn't have taken my money, because my money isn't for the taking. Because from start to finish, that was all I ever wanted." Leo took a breath and continued. "You're the same as me. You have so many ways to earn the villagers' admiration, but you still just use an aggressive tone to get their acceptance. Because from start to finish, that's all you ever wanted. I haven't done it. They'll still talk about me," Peyton said, shaking her head. She knew what these people were like. "So I'll help you do it. Since they say you married poorly, we have to make them believe, from the bottom of their hearts, that you're a happy woman. Make them so jealous they go insane." After saying this, Leo laughed and turned back to the creek to continue being its lord and master. But Peyton lowered her head, sitting on the bank lost in thought. She understood now. She felt a sudden jolt in her heart, a complexity she couldn't put into words. After a long while, she finally looked up. "Leo, it's really easy for people to fall in love with you when you're like this. That's why I rarely spread my charm around. But you're different," Leo yelled from a distance. "A woman with grand ambitions like you. If you get bogged down by petty romance, I'll really look down on you." Leo's expression was confident. But Peyton was starting to lose her confidence. Her heart began to pound. She wanted to say something, because there were words welling up inside her. In that one instant, she wanted to say it. "Leo, don't give me the whole move to tears routine. Our trip to the country has only one goal." Leo gave a thumbs up. "To have a blast, and that's it." Looking at that figure bathed in the sunlight, Peyton's mind couldn't hold anything else. What powerful family, what bankruptcy, what other messy bullshit? She didn't know. She tied up her hair, rolled up her pants, and walked into the cool creek, step by step, toward the center of the stream. She knew that since arriving in the village, Leo had started to change. It was as if a shackled soul inside him was being set free. She wanted that, too. In this moment, the only sounds were the occasional bark of a dog and the gentle flow of the creek. A person needs a break. You have to take off the mask and live for a few days. She understood what Leo had said. It was like that phrase, you spend your whole life trapped by the things you couldn't have when you were young. She went to the big city and kept climbing, hoping for acceptance and respect. But in the end, the source of it all was right here in this village. She was even more grateful that she had brought him here. So now, she would cast aside all those external factors and walk toward him. Now she could briefly take off the mask and be the weak, young Peyton of this small village. This time, someone would use the most wonderfully tacky method to stand with her, face the entire village, and shout, "You sons of bitches, Eat your goddamn hearts out. By the time she reached the middle of the creek, Leo had already run up to the small bridge. The silhouette of the distant green mountains was faint, in a place so open that a shout would echo back. None of the noise felt like noise at all. On the small wooden bridge, the man sat down, dangling his feet and shaking off the water droplets, spouting the most gloriously vulgar new money fantasies. I'm gonna park my fleet of luxury cars right at the entrance, just for show. Blind their goddamn eyes. Peyton stood quietly in the center of the creek, listening to him shout about his grand public spectacle. Her bright, almond-shaped eyes were full of laughter. She knew that from this moment on, there was no genius host from the Cypress Lounge, no long-lost young master of the Miller family. There was no bankrupt cosmetics CEO, no woman with the heart of a serpent. After all these years, wandering in circles, she was still the girl by the creek and bridge of this village. And he was the boy by the water. Since the goal was to have a blast, the red dress dinner couldn't be a half-assed affair. Although time was tight and there wasn't much room to maneuver, the house at least needed a good tidying up. They returned home, dragging a mountain of things they'd purchased in the county seat, bags big and small. This made Earl absolutely giddy. He proactively ran to the courtyard gate to help carry things, until Leo directed him to move everything into Peyton's room. Earl was dumbfounded. Isn't any of it for me? You want one of these? Leo asked, making a fist. You're taking this a little too far. Come on, let's go outside and settle this. Forget it. I won't lower myself to your level. Earl looked at the strapping young man in front of him and, in the end, just shook his head. In the social unit of the family, the status of the head of the household needs to be supported by some kind of power, providing for the family, solving life's problems, and so on. There are countless ways to demonstrate one's authority. Earl had none of them, leaving him with only crudeness. But crudeness is the weak man's imitation of strength. When a cruder man stood before him, he had no moves left. How's that thing I told you to do? I found an electrician in the village. It was all installed while you were in town, Earl said, waving his hand helplessly. Good work. Keep it up. Peyton's dark room now had a light. Since the room had so few appliances, or even decorations, she spotted it instantly. Did you? I paid. Earl found the guy. The electrician did the work. A three-way partnership to solve Ms. Peyton's long-standing lighting problem. Leo walked to the wall and gestured with a flourish. Please inspect the results. Peyton walked over without a word and pressed the switch. The white LED fixture cast a soft glow. It was just an ordinary light, the kind you get for $15 at Home Depot. But childhood dreams are a funny thing. Some kids want to be astronauts. Some dream of eating instant noodles every day. Some want to go to Disneyland every year. And some just want a light in their room. Putting aside all external factors, would a woman cry tears of gratitude upon receiving an LED light? Probably not. At the very least, those tears are reserved for love letters or the ring placed on her finger during a proposal. Of course, Peyton wasn't crying over an LED light. Her tears were for all the nights that were gone. The nights spent doing homework by flashlight in the dark. The nights spent huddled under the covers when a mouse got into the room. The nights spent crying softly in fear while listening to her father's drunken rage next door. She had always said, if only I had a light. But after all these years, there was still no light in this room. If she wanted to, she could have installed 100 lights and let them burn night after night. But she always said it didn't matter, that she didn't come back often anyway. And even when she did occasionally return, no matter how inconvenient it was, she would just endure it. She was always going to leave anyway. Yes, she always had 100 excuses to avoid it. Peyton, you were never prepared to face any of this. It'll be fine once I get back to Riverbend. Running away works, but facing it head-on can land a critical hit. Leo sat on a rickety stool. You worked so hard to change your life, right? Of course. You changed your style, your hair, your makeup. You became more like a city person, not some girl from the sticks. Leo crossed his legs, looking like he was about to rock the stool to pieces. But everything in this village is what you really wanted to change most, isn't it? A $15 light can be found anywhere. The light isn't what's valuable. The courage to face what's missing inside you. That's what's priceless. Peyton was a classic conservative investor. The phrase, weigh the pros and cons, was etched into her DNA. The great Isabella Vance could make the decision to run away with me in an instant, but Peyton could never pull off something like that. But that didn't mean Peyton would hide her feelings in her heart like a naive schoolgirl. Whether conservative or all in, they were just different ways to win. Here, in this small village, cut off from all outside factors, a woman was attracted to a man. It was that simple. As Peyton was tidying up the room, she chose to ask casually, Leo, after working at the Cypress Lounge for so long, has a girl ever told you she liked you? You're seriously underestimating my charm. Every night, during the late-night emo hours, I have clients pouring out their past heartbreaks. I always do my duty and help them sort through it. And when we're done, they just send me selfies of their thighs in exchange for a shirtless pic of my upper body. You don't like aggressive women? I love them. But you see it enough, and you get tired of it. Any hobby becomes a job, and you get tired of it. Leo threw up his hands, his expression remarkably frank. Peyton was certain. If they were in Riverbend right now, Leo would never say something so down-to-earth, and yet so revealing. After all, she wasn't the only one who needed a mask. Leo did too. Or rather, everyone in this world wore a mask to some degree. This trip to the village might be her one and only chance. Peyton pulled up a stool and sat beside Leo, pondering how best to phrase her questions. Do the others know you have a girlfriend? They know, but that just sparks their competitive spirit. The clientele at the lounge aren't exactly pure-hearted romantics. So when they express their feelings, what do you feel inside? Gratitude. I'm grateful that someone likes me. After all, it's a validation of who I am. How do you respond? I tell them I love my girlfriend very much and that it's impossible between us. Nothing else I can do. I still need them to pay my bills. Do you ever feel guilty? Or, I don't mean anything by this question. It's just that you don't seem like the heartless type. Leo clearly understood what she was getting at. Are you asking if I worry that my actions will hurt a girl when she confesses her feelings for me? Yes, because you also know some people will still confess their feelings even after hearing you say you love your girlfriend. What's that got to do with me? Liking me is their business. I'm not some great saint who has to make everyone happy. Leo shook his head and leaned in closer to Peyton. Stop beating around the bush. I can only tell you this. Don't drag everything back to feelings. You're my client. You made me a lot of money, and I'm grateful. So when you made such a personal request to come back to your hometown, I was willing to help. After all, this kind of thing involves personal factors, and I'm probably the only one who could help. I'm not charging you because I want to show my gratitude. Think of it as a loyalty gift for a valued customer. Once we got to the village, you were willing to treat me like a friend. And likewise, I've had a great time and felt really comfortable. So I don't mind helping you out as a friend. Don't overthink the rest. Leo stretched, leaving the rickety stool just as it was about to fall apart. Since they had gotten this far, Peyton decided to lay her cards on the table. Leo, feelings between men and women are born from these kinds of interactions. Whether you develop feelings or not, what's that got to do with me? Flirt and run. Peyton wasn't entirely serious when she said it, but the atmosphere turned ambiguous the moment the words left her mouth. A conservative investor's attack is always hidden in constant probing. If helping you is what you call flirting, then yes, I flirt and run, Leo said nonchalantly. All right, then I guess I'll have to go hide and cry my eyes out. Peyton feigned a sad face. In their short conversation, there was no escalation, only testing. But Leo shot her a harsh glare. One trip back to the village, and you really think you're an innocent country girl? We're both old foxes. Stop pretending to be some pure-hearted maiden. And you're not an innocent college boy. How could there be anyone innocent in a place like the Cypress Lounge? Leo looked at her as if she'd asked the most ridiculous question in the world. And your story with Summer Lynn isn't innocent enough? It's such a touching love story. Quite the opposite. It's because of my relationship with Summer that I realized responsibility isn't just some empty word. So I'm sorry, but I can't bear the responsibility for you. If I were a pure-hearted girl, I'd probably be crying right now after hearing that, Peyton teased with a smile. Falling in love comes with the inherent risk of tears. If by pure-hearted, you mean someone whose mind is filled with nothing but beautiful fantasies when they think of love. Leo shook his head and continued. Then I'd say those tears aren't shed in vain. Leo waved his hand casually and opened a package he'd brought back from town. He suddenly saw something unfamiliar. Why did you buy a vase and a mirror? It's a tradition I heard about. You put the vase on the east side and the mirror on the west. Is there some meaning to it? The vase in the east represents the husband. The mirror in the west represents the wife. It's a kind of wedding blessing for marital harmony. You guys have that tradition up north? Leo didn't say much, just muttered, the decorations inside the house aren't for showing off to people. There's no need for that, is there? Peyton shook her head without answering. It wasn't a northern tradition. It was something she had heard about before. It meant nothing more than she thought the custom had a beautiful meaning. She hoped to use it with her future husband. It was that simple. Peyton knew she had been rejected, but it didn't matter, because Leo was right. She wasn't some pure-hearted maiden with a head full of beautiful fantasies. The kind of person Leo attracted most was the doe-eyed girl just beginning to experience love. It was like a girl stepping out of her house for the first time and running into a max-level succubus. But that kind of girl wouldn't last 2 months by his side before leaving on her own. Because the moment you talk to him about love, he'll show you just how cruel the price is for a novice to encounter a max-level succubus. The ones who could truly stay were the strange ones, like Peyton. Leo, what if I'm prepared to shed those tears? That's your business. It has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with you. Peyton took the initiative, walking over to meet Leo's gaze. When he moved, she moved with him. Are you crazy? Leo, we're in a small village far away from Riverbend. Forget everything outside and look at me. Fine, I'm looking. Leo turned his head in annoyance and met her eyes. In that instant, their gazes locked. A look mixed with desire is a spiritual kiss. This time, it was Leo who looked away first. I've looked. Now what? You're avoiding me. If I don't, we're going to kiss. And what if we do? Forget everything outside. There's only you and me here. Love is a heavy thing. I came here to relax. I have a better way to relax. Want to try it? Peyton gave him a meaningful smile. You better not be making a dirty joke. Leo walked around the room in a circle, muttering, if you keep this up, I'm going back to Riverbend. Leo, you have feelings for me, don't you? Peyton ignored his threat, choosing to press forward. No, then why are you helping me? Peyton had nearly backed Leo into a corner. It's something Silas taught me. Helping others is helping yourself. Guess you didn't fall for the trap. I was just teasing you. Peyton changed the subject. In her heart, she considered Leo's words an excuse. But she knew that pressing him further would get her nowhere. Leo would just buy a train ticket back to Riverbend that night. She had a crack in her heart. Leo surely had one, too. Leo versus Peyton was, in essence, a clash between two max-level succubi. She would break open that crack in Leo's heart. There was still time. The prerequisite was to keep Leo in the small village, this environment that made him relax. As for Summer Lynn, all I can say is I'm sorry. You can curse me all you want. I'm not a good woman anyway. She repeated Leo's words to herself. Helping others is helping yourself. So what can I help you with? Peyton quickly found a random topic. Who knows? Maybe I'll be dying someday, and you'll descend from the heavens to take a knife from me. Leo spouted nonsense. What do you think this is, the Golden Triangle? Life is so stressful these days. Who knows when you'll run into some antisocial psycho? Then I'd definitely run faster than anyone. I cherish my life more than anything, Peyton said, rocking back and forth on the stool. Then I'll just die, and let everyone call you an ungrateful wolf. Leo walked over and flicked her forehead. Peyton raised her hand to block it, catching Leo's fingers. She said, I don't care if I'm an ungrateful wolf or not. In fact, I'd even make a video to build a persona. For example, after my husband died, I returned to the small village alone. The house still keeps the arrangement of the vase in the east and the mirror in the west. Every day, I'll film myself combing my hair in front of the mirror, expressing a widow's longing for her husband. The name of this video series will be The Widow's Diary. The caption will read, a bottle east, a mirror west, a love I can't put to rest. Peyton carefully walked over and straightened the vase and mirror, putting on a pitifully sad expression, as if she were truly mourning a deceased husband. Riverbend Arena. Summer Lynn's New Year's Eve concert. The threads of fate will reconnect in the next second. My love, perhaps tonight I will sleep with you. Summer Lynn was pouring her heart out on stage as the concert neared its end. Her voice was a little hoarse. This song was one of Summer's more obscure tracks. The topic of fate was, compared to love and romance, a bit too grand. Fate wasn't right in front of you, so who would believe in it? Backstage at the concert, there was an extra person in Summer Lynn's dressing room. It was Dr. Evelyn Shaw. She knelt and carefully examined Peyton's wound. Leo, calm down. She's not going to die. Can I move her right now? Leo's first aid knowledge was pathetically scarce. He only knew that in some situations, you shouldn't move the injured. I can give her some emergency treatment. The wound isn't deep, otherwise the knife wouldn't have come out. Evelyn pointed to the knife on the floor, applying pressure to stop the bleeding as she spoke. It's New Year's Day. Traffic is terrible, but the hospital is very close. I suggest we wait for the ambulance. It will definitely be faster than you driving. Okay. Leo looked at the blood on his hands. The scarlet shock was more potent than any words. Calm down, Leo. I recorded the video at the door. I saw everything. She was taking the knife for you. Evelyn had witnessed the entire process. She knew clearly that if Peyton hadn't blocked that knife for Leo, she herself would likely be dead by now. Reconstructing the event from an observer's perspective might make it clearer. You and Peyton were standing shoulder to shoulder, very close. Ethan walked towards you, attempting to stab you. But the problem was his nerve failed him. He found his target first, then closed his eyes before swinging the knife. This is how ordinary people often commit assaults. In that split second, he closed his eyes. Peyton thought the knife was coming for you. So, she moved in your direction. And you also thought the knife was for you. So you moved to the other side. Ethan heard the movement, opened his eyes, and started to follow Peyton's movement with the knife. But again, in that moment, an ordinary person can't stay completely calm. Because he had deviated from his predetermined fatal spot, the knife struck her in the area near her shoulder blade. Evelyn described the scene as meticulously as possible and grabbed Leo, who was walking towards Ethan. Calm down, Leo. You have other things to do. To hell with that. I can't calm down. Don't you want to get a memory back? Screw the memory. I'm going to end this son of a bitch first. Evelyn's slender body blocked his path, her voice almost a roar as she forced him to calm down. Listen, Peyton chose to die for you. She's not going to die. She's not going to die. Leo's words were more like a mantra to convince himself. Whether she lives or dies is for the doctors to decide. But don't you want to know why? Evelyn stood on her tiptoes, wrapping her arms around Leo's neck and patting his back, her tone suddenly gentle. Leo, she's a woman with the heart of serpent. So why would she die for you? I don't know. I want to know. I want to know. Leo's face was pale as he stared at the blood on his hands. His eyes were filled with struggle, and he collapsed to the floor as if all his strength had vanished. Why? Evelyn knelt with him, holding his head. Like a kindergarten teacher comforting a child, she stroked his hair in this room, flowing with fresh blood. Her gentle voice was a soothing balm. Sweetheart, right now, just pause all the activity in your brain. Just follow my voice, okay? Okay, but I can't control it. Leo's voice trembled. Evelyn leaned down, her face close to Leo's, rubbing her cheek against his. Listen to me, sweetheart. Just follow my voice, and you'll definitely remember. Okay, what do I do? Don't try to think about everything that happened between you from start to finish. The information load is too big. Think about moments, fragments. I don't know. What kind of fragments? Look at her. Evelyn turned Leo's head to face Peyton, who was lying on the floor. As you look at her in this tragic state, think in your mind, why? Why? Leo felt something in his brain was about to burst through. He kept casting a net into the ocean of his mind, trying to fish something out. He'd pull it up, not it. Cast again, not it either. Leo was getting anxious. Evelyn wasn't. Initially, she had only hoped to replicate the scene of the first car crash to give Leo some external shock. But clearly, the shock of the current scene was far more effective than she had imagined. What could be more shocking than blood and death? But it wasn't enough yet. Evelyn turned her head to look at Peyton. If only Peyton could say something right now. Give him a hint. She turned her head in Peyton's direction. She saw Peyton's mouth moving, but her voice was too weak to be heard clearly. In this life, It was impossible to hear clearly. Evelyn tried to get a little closer. But Leo, as if he had heard something, began to tremble violently. Then he closed his eyes and straightened up. Did you remember? Leo's face was smeared with blood, the muscles in his cheeks twitching. He opened his eyes, which were filled with tears. I saw it. Connor sighed. He was supposed to be the one recording the video. But he had just seen Evelyn Shaw. If she recorded it, so be it. He could just snatch it from her later. He had one last task, and then he would be free. Kill Leo Miller. No one thought Ethan could actually kill Leo. Not even if he was holding a blue-flamed Gatling gun instead of a knife. Just as Connor had questioned the Reverend Wild when he received the mission. Is there any possibility that Ethan could just kill Leo directly? There is. If you tie Leo up from a chop at, there might be a chance. Even tied up, it's only might be a chance. If you gag Leo, the chances might improve a little. Regarding Leo, Connor's feelings were complicated, but his position was firm. He was just a grunt. He did what he was told. Whether his cousin lived or died had nothing to do with him. The moment Connor prepared himself and walked out of the dressing room, he suddenly felt like he was going to die. Uncle Frank. Connor saw Frank Miller as soon as he stepped out the door. He swallowed nervously. Where's Leo? He's probably out front watching the concert. Oh, take me there. Uncle Frank, I have something to do. You go on ahead. All right. Connor made a quick exit. After confirming Frank Miller was gone, Connor touched his heart and gasped for breath, celebrating his narrow escape. Although reality didn't have a visible power level, he had heard stories about Uncle Frank. Standing in front of him, Connor felt like a raw recruit. Having dodged Frank Miller, Connor hurried away. He went to the dressing room, intending to kick the door open and rush in. But unexpectedly, as he reached the door, it opened on its own. Walking out was Ethan. Young Master Ethan, are you all right? The moment he saw it was Ethan, Connor immediately let his guard down. Who would be wary of a good-for-nothing? The real battle of wits was with Leo. That's what required his full attention. So when he looked down, he couldn't believe there was a knife sticking out his chest. Was this a joke? Ethan dared to kill someone. Until the moment he died, Connor couldn't believe he would die at Ethan's hands. Before his heart stopped beating, he heard a single sentence. It was Ethan who said it. "Shit, almost forgot about you, you little stooge." It started to rain. The ambulance had arrived. Peyton was loaded into it. Leo got in too. He had originally planned to go with Frank Miller to the Miller estate. But Frank stood at the door, holding Ethan like he was lugging around a sack of potatoes. He extinguished his cigarette. "Son, if you want to go to the hospital, go. I want to end this whole mess with the Miller family for good. It will be ended. Trust me this once." Frank patted his son's shoulder. "Go to the hospital and get yourself checked out. Don't worry about anything else." Leo and his father met each other's eyes. Everything was understood without words. Perhaps Summerlin had some kind of buff, like being the successor to the rain god. In any case, as the concert drew to a close, it began to rain in Riverbend. Frank Miller watched the ambulance drive away, his old leather jacket soaked by the rain, his salt and pepper hair plastered to his forehead. His eyes were murky, like a cigarette, but on the ground that even the rain couldn't extinguish. Outside the operating room, Peyton was undergoing treatment, while Evelyn was constantly recording Leo's condition. Are there any other fragments? A wedding. There was a fleet of cars. It was a sunny day. It seems like she was pursuing me, always harassing me with her words. Even on the morning of the red dress dinner, I woke up and found my hand on her chest. Any more details? Sounds, colors, actions. Evelyn pressed quickly. She made a sound like... Her underwear was black. I was lying on my side. She had her back to me. On what basis do you judge that you weren't the one who initiated the touch? The day before, when we were cleaning the room, her whole vibe was like she was on the offensive. So what specific details happened the day before? Can you remember? Evelyn was constantly trying to anchor a point to extend Leo's memory. Even a normal person, when recalling past memories, can have trouble with clarity. Just let me think. It was probably after I installed the light in her room, and there was a vase and a mirror. Oh, the vase on the east side, the mirror on the west. They sat outside the operating room for several hours. Evelyn, following the timeline, had nearly reconstructed all of Leo's memories of his time with Peyton before the red dress dinner began. Leo, now try to think about what caused the amnesia. Is it something I can figure out just by thinking? Let me give you some hints. Memory loss is accompanied by strong emotional fluctuations. A typical strong emotional fluctuation is a swing from great joy to great sorrow. I don't get it. Let me ask you in a simpler way. Were there any moments during your time together that made you very happy? Leo thought seriously for a full 5 minutes. He still wasn't used to dead memories suddenly coming back to life, but he couldn't find any strong sense of happiness in the existing memory fragments. I felt very comfortable staying in the village. Does that count? Or think about why you helped her. Because I thought she was even more pitiful than me. Anything else? Did you like her? Leo shook his head. I wouldn't say I liked her. Then focus now. What happened on the day of the red dress dinner? The day of the dinner? Leo stared at the stark, white hospital ceiling and fell into deep thought. He needed to sort this out properly. I'm Leo Miller. Yes, the genius host from the Cypress Lounge, the third young master of the Miller family. Your good buddy, Leo. This is the first time I'm recalling this memory. There's too much information flooding in at once. I need to process it slowly. So, in a way, I'm also exploring this memory. That will inevitably make my account a bit subjective. But damn, it feels good. This feeling makes my blood boil. Because my senses are back. I can smell the sweet corn from the county fair. I can remember how that damn toad by the creek hopped. And I can also remember the feeling of my hand on Peyton's chest that day. Soft like creek water. She really put there herself. It had nothing to do with your brother here. I didn't squeeze. Okay, I did give a squeeze. I was half asleep. The room was pitch black. It's understandable. It was a bright, sunny day. I remember I got up and had breakfast. Peyton was getting her makeup done by a makeup artist from the county seat. She was sitting in a chair and turned to look at me. The makeup artist asked me, "Look, isn't your wife beautiful?" The term wife felt a little strange to me, but I still went up and praised her relentlessly. A few compliments don't cost anything, but she really was beautiful. But I didn't look for long. I really didn't. I have that much self-awareness. I was here to help. In this village, I was Leo, and she was Peyton. No external identities. But back in Riverbend, that wouldn't be the case. She had her ambitions. I had my career. Although I admired her, her background was even more pitiful than mine, but she did better than me. As for her plan to marry into a rich family, I was willing to wish her luck. After all, I've always been one to help my friends, not to debate the logic. The rich family wasn't named Miller, so what did it have to do with me? Actually, the rich family was named Miller. If we're talking bloodlines, I might have been helping the wrong side. But I didn't know that at the time. I went outside and saw a lot of people had arrived. I didn't know any of them. Bored, I went back into the room to find Peyton. Damn, Peyton was gorgeous. Wasn't this just a goddamn succubus reincarnated? If I were the king, I wouldn't leave the bedroom. Her features were already bewitching, her figure was amazing, and she was wearing a red silk robe for the dinner. I'm a culture man. I can describe it for you. The traditional robe gave off a sense of sexual repression from a bygone era. But when you looked up at her face, you found she was winking at you. It was a bit of a my king, your servant is ready kind of vibe. I really couldn't handle that. I'd better go outside. A gentleman is judged by his actions, not his thoughts. No matter how much of a wreck Peyton was in my mind, at least I hadn't done anything. I have a girlfriend. I have boundaries. But Peyton called me back. She said, Leo, come with me for a bit. I nodded. I knew where she was going without her having to say it. We stood, all dressed up at the edge of the woods. There was an owl sleeping in a tree. I saw it. In front of her mother's gravestone, I was also a bit swept up by the emotions of the environment. Because Peyton said she had dreamed of her mother last night. I was starting to miss my mom a little too. If my mom passed away, I'd probably be crying at her grave on my wedding day too. No, my mom won't die. I watched Peyton kneel before the tombstone. I put a plastic bag under her knees to keep her dress from getting dirty. I had thought of that when we left the house. You see, you're always learning. Never stop learning. Mom, I found a good man. I'm going to be very happy. When I heard Peyton say this through her tears, I actually felt a little ashamed. What kind of good man gets married to someone else while he has a girlfriend? I'm not a good man, but I haven't let anyone down. I have the right to say that. A pure, flawless love only exists in fairy tales about princes and princesses. You have to be a prince with a throne to inherit. I'm not a prince. I'm a nobody from the mud. I never shy away from my flaws. It's the existence of these flaws that makes me keenly aware that my life is still vibrant, not that of someone who has been labeled and must follow the rules. That's why I really like this little village. No sales pressure. Nobody knew me. I could be as crazy as I wanted, but not in Riverbend. At work, facing female clients, I can't have flaws. That's the job. No job means no money. And if there's no money, my family will struggle. I can't have flaws in front of Summer either. Although she's very understanding, if my spirit breaks, hers will too, because Summer hasn't grown up yet. Sometimes I feel like Summer is my little sister. I take her through thick and thin. I solve her problems for her. I'm happy to solve her problems. I'm happy to watch her grow up and find herself. But I'm not willing to burden her with my troubles. Even if I sometimes get drunk and record some heartfelt videos, I'll never send them to her, because it's meaningless. Of course, I'll never say these words out loud. You date someone, and in the end, you say she's like a sister. Isn't that just being a scumbag? Although I know it might be better to say it, I can't, because it might destroy her. So I actually quite like being with Peyton. No feelings involved. I know she's also covered in dust, just like me. I can express my flaws without reservation, because she's also showing me her scars. Complaint session over. Peyton was crying so hard, she could barely breathe. I had to go comfort her. She was retelling what her mother said to her in the dream. I wanted to say something at this point, so I looked around. The forest was full of life. I said, in spring, you don't dream of death. What I meant was, it's a good thing you dreamed of your mother, because spring is so full of life. It means your mother is doing well on the other side. I really am a cultured person, just not that cultured. But actually, I was lying to her, because I also dreamed of her mother last night. Her mom cried. It was all because last night before bed, she insisted on showing me a photo of her mother. In the dream, her mother's figure was blurry. She said, young man, you two must be good to each other in the future. I said, don't worry, Auntie. I'll make her happy. I lied again. Our marriage was an act. I had no psychological burden. My job is to lie, to weave happy lies in the Cypress Lounge, to make unhappy people happy, and then have them willingly open their wallets and pay. But I don't know if the departed are all-knowing. Anyway, her mother saw through my lie. Annie knows you two are acting. Can you help take care of her for me? Of course. It was just a dream, so why not agree? I figured even Annie herself didn't take it seriously. But I took it seriously. I promised you I'll definitely do it. Don't worry. Although I'm not a good man, I promised, and I'll definitely do it. There wasn't much else to do at the grave, so my mind was a bit busy. I thought I would just help Peyton back, have a celebratory drink, collect some gifts, and be done with it. But Peyton wouldn't leave. She insisted on talking to me. I thought we should at least change locations, because probably no one likes to chat in front of a grave. But her first sentence rooted me to the spot. She said, "Leo, we can stay in the village for a while longer." I shook my head, because I still had to work and make money. What freedom does a working stiff have? I'd already lost so much pay from taking these days off. "I'll pay you." Her expression didn't look like she was kidding. To be honest, I was a little tempted. Someone gives you money, and you can still fool around. But God doesn't just hand out free gifts. This woman was definitely after my body. I was just about to refuse, but Peyton's next offensive move stunned me. "Leo, you can guess my intentions however you want, no matter how dirty your guesses are." Peyton's long, almond-shaped eyes seemed to see right through me. Still kneeling on the ground, she held out her hand, asking for help to get up. I thought she was going to go for a sudden kiss or something, but she just brushed the dirt off her clothes and adjusted the dangling earring on her ear. "I called Silas this morning and put $200,000 on a card. He said he won't dock your pay. What are you after?" Guess in the worst possible way, and you'll be right. On the lighter side, it's to devour you. On the more serious side, maybe I'll harvest your kidneys. Peyton didn't fit with many of the adjectives used to describe beauty. Things like cool elegance, youthful vibe, or girlish charm. When she smiled, it was pure, unadulterated allure. I stood there looking at her, completely unable to figure out this bad woman's game, until she leaned in and whispered something in my ear. It left me frozen on the spot. In that instant, I burst out laughing for a full 5 minutes until my throat was dry and I was gagging, scaring the owl in the tree awake. Although Peyton said to think of her motives as dirty as possible, I actually didn't want to think of her as dirty. Because, come to think of it, both of our personas are pretty dirty. If you started an interactive poll, option A is the top-earning male model. B is the woman who schemed to marry into a rich family. If you had to choose who was dirtier, could you even decide? You could only say each has their own merits. But that scene in that sentence, I'll never forget. In front of Peyton's mother's grave, with an owl still sleeping in the tree. That bad woman, who was technically my client, but today was my bride, said something I had never heard in my entire life. She said, "Leo, I want to pay to see you genuinely smile." I'll admit, this woman has some skills. Heh, trying to play mind games with me. Are you? Do you know what I do for a living? But for some reason, I found myself shifting my stance on the spot, like I had bugs crawling all over me. Peyton watched me with a mischievous look. She said, "Why are you acting like a monkey in a circus?" "I'm itchy. Your back or your heart?" My chin is itchy. "Want me to scratch it for you?" "No thanks, I'm fine." I stuffed my hands in my pockets, trying to look cool, and walked straight back to the village. Was my guard broken? Impossible. This was just a little trick the bad woman was using to try and conquer me. Whoever takes it seriously is destined to be fooled by women for the rest of their life. There's no way I'm taking it seriously. Then I saw Silas's name pop up on my phone. My first thought was to brag to him. But I held back. He told me the fleet of cars had arrived, and to go to the village entrance to meet them, and to pick him up while I was at it. That's right, I had called Silas. To have him pretend to be my dad. What kind of red dress dinner doesn't have the groom's parents? I had considered asking my own dad to come, but honestly, Rick Miller just doesn't have the right vibe. Standing next to Earl, they'd probably look like a pair of hard-luck brothers-in-law. It's an act, so of course you pick the actor with the right image. It's a long way from Riverbend to here. This was a huge favor. At first, I had only asked him as a joke, just to test the waters. But Silas agreed. Filled with gratitude, I scurried over like a lackey, until I saw a woman in Silas's car. Only then did I realize that Silas was only helping me because it was on his way. The old dog was here to rekindle an old flame. The connections he used to find the cars belonged to an old flame of his who lived up north. I'm happy when Silas is doing well. But if he's doing too well, I just wish the old bastard would drop dead. I had originally planned to give him some face in front of his old flame. But the first thing he said when he got out of the car was, "This is how you do it as a host." Old flames scattered all over the country. The pretentiousness was off the charts. Some people just can't be contained. It's like they exist just to flex. If they have the opportunity, they flex hard. If they don't, they create the opportunity. Seeing his smug face, I felt sick to my stomach. But I endured it. Silas looked at my expression, then turned and patted my shoulder. Peyton topped up her card again. "You did a good job on this one." The worse my face looked, the more complete his flex was, the greater his sense of accomplishment. When he flexes, simple flattery and applause are no longer enough to satisfy him. Because he's been immersed in this for so many years, his satisfaction threshold is extremely high. Only by stepping on a rising star in the flexing world like me can he truly get his kicks. "All right, old man, you can have this one." "I am honored to dedicate myself to the Cypress Lounge," I said, putting on an expression of undying loyalty. "I'm also dedicating myself to the Cypress Lounge. In fact, I arrived last night." Silas clutched his lower back and glanced at the woman in the car. It seemed the old dog had a rough night. Women, you have to pay a price when they help you, Silas lamented, then turned to me with a puzzled look. Peyton's money isn't easy to earn. What conditions did she give you? She asked me to stay in the village for a while longer. I answered truthfully. Upon hearing this, Silas pointed shamelessly at my lower body. You gave it to her? I didn't. Then why does she want you to stay here? She said she's paying for my happiness. Bullshit. Who comes to the lounge and isn't paying for happiness? She's paying for my happiness. On the surface, I was answering truthfully, but inside I was flexing. Silas would have preferred I hadn't answered truthfully, and he certainly didn't want to see me outflex him. His two sparse eyebrows twitched, and he sighed with his head down. I was careless. You managed to pull one over on me. Be more careful next time. I think some other things happened at the dinner, but I can't recall them right now, because Peyton is out of surgery. When the doctor announced that her life was no longer in danger, the tense atmosphere gradually dissipated. Her injuries were much lighter than imagined. She didn't even need to stay in the ICU for observation. She was actually conscious already, but the general anesthesia still left her a bit delirious. This was evident in her nonsensical muttering. I don't want to die. I really don't want to die. This was a private room, with only Peyton as a patient. Outside, the light rain had turned into a downpour. Faint lightning streaked across the sky, and cold air slowly seeped through the window screen. Her heavy makeup was gone, her regular clothes replaced with a hospital gown. Lying on the bed, the bewitching woman now had an air of having been washed clean of all worldly pretenses. Evelyn sat by the bed, constantly comforting her. It's okay, you're safe now. Leo, I'm sorry, Peyton muttered on the bed. No matter how much Evelyn tried to persuade her, she couldn't stop. Until Leo walked to the head of the bed and took her hand. It's okay. Peyton quieted down, then suddenly turned her head to look at him. Are you dead too? I'm not dead. Oh, that's good. Otherwise, I would have died for nothing. You're not dead either. A nurse came in to change her for. Leo and Evelyn left the room. Standing in the hallway, they looked out the window side by side. Evelyn didn't bring up the memory issue again, but instead asked about what to do with Peyton next. How long until her family arrives? Her dad's phone is unreachable, so the Miller family won't do anything either? She's still a daughter-in-law, after all. She backstabbed the Reverend Wild first, then Rick. Who's going to help her? Then she should have some savings, right? Technically, it was $920,000. Leo took Peyton's phone from his pocket, unlocked it, and showed a picture. The picture read, "Thank you for your successful donation of $920,000 to the Hope for Students in Impoverished Mountainous Regions program. The funds will be used entirely for the daily expenses of students in need." She really didn't plan on living? Evelyn suddenly fell silent. As someone who knew Peyton reasonably well, she thought there was a possibility of some calculation in this matter. After all, risk and reward are proportional. What do you get in return for taking a knife and surviving? Leo, have you already decided to take responsibility for her? Evelyn suddenly looked up and asked. Let's take care of her and get her healthy first, Leo said. He could make certain decisions in a second. Peyton had no one and no money, and she was lying in a hospital bed. If he didn't take care of her, who would? Leo, but she keeps saying she's sorry. What exactly is she sorry for? Evelyn asked. She still knew too little about Peyton's story. Fortunately, Leo might have remembered. I haven't remembered, Leo said, shaking his head without hesitation. Next time you lie, try to control your facial expression, Evelyn said, rolling her eyes. Even if she did something terribly wrong, this is enough to pay for it. Leo ended the topic and turned to ask the nurse who was coming out about Peyton's condition. After confirming that she was stable and would likely be asleep for a while, he turned back to Evelyn. Can I trouble Dr. Shaw to look after her for a bit? I swear, I was born to be a workhorse. I could die of exhaustion and no one would care. It's just that you have a little bit of professional knowledge. Lying without even blinking. Evelyn smoothed her bangs and pointed at Leo's heart. Because out of the few women you can trust, I'm the only one willing to do this kind of work that boosts the enemy's morale. So are you doing it or not? Of course I am. Next time you have a job like this, remember to call me. Evelyn's expression was one of extreme satisfaction. She leaned in close to Leo's ear, her voice conspiratorial. Let them fight. The longer they fight, the more annoyed you'll get. And when I get annoyed, I'll come to you. Of course, a wife can't compare to a mistress, and a mistress can't compare to a secret lover. Of course, that's just one reason. Seeing someone approaching, Evelyn reverted to her intellectual demeanor, politely nodding at the passing medical staff. As soon as they were gone, she pushed up her glasses, her expression immediately becoming animated again. The second reason is when everyone lets their guard down around me, even starts treating me like their best friend, I'll quietly backstab them all. While I'm on the phone with one, spilling our hearts out, I'll be with you. Tone it down, that's a little creepy. Thank you for the compliment. In the rain, Isabella Vance stood at the entrance of a convenience store, waiting quietly. The concert had ended a long time ago, but she still hadn't seen Leo. She hadn't called anyone to find out what was going on. She just waited stubbornly. Leo said he would pick her up here, so she would wait. He would come. But her right eye was twitching uncontrollably. When your heart is in turmoil, any omen gets magnified. Even the least superstitious person will inevitably fall into speculation. So Isabella took out her phone to search what a twitching right eye means. Left eye, you get prize. Right eye. Left eye, you get a prize. Right eye, just some dusty old wives' tale. The voice from the educational video and a snarky voice sounded almost at the same time. Isabella whipped her head around, and there was Leo, having sprinted through the rain to appear before her. She looked him up and down until she saw the small specks of blood on the corner of his clothes. Something happened. Are you worried about me? No. Isabella turned her head away, trying her best not to let him see her red, swollen eyes. Leo casually grabbed a napkin from the convenience store counter, handed it to her, and mercilessly teased, "If your tear ducts are this active, you shouldn't try to be at Sundra." When the Reverend Wild kept searching for Summerlin concert and found nothing but fan-shot sing-along videos, with absolutely no rumors leaking out, he knew he was finished. He had to run. No one stopped him. Rick didn't even spare him a glance. Of course, the Reverend Wild had an escape plan. To cover his tracks, he would leave in Vincent Shung's car, until he encountered a used VW Jetta blocking the middle of the mountain road. Rick Miller sat at the foot of the patriarch's bed, muttering something under his breath. The old man's eyes were closed the entire time. He spent most of his day in a drowsy state. When life reaches its end, the greatest enemies are only illness and old age. For the first half, his only audience was the patriarch. For the second half, the audience grew to include many people. Frank, who had stormed into the Miller estate, the Reverend Wild, who had gone and come back, and the two Shung brothers and Willow Shung. Willow didn't have to come, but she insisted on following. She didn't say much. She wasn't here to speak, but to listen to what others had to say. Rick, with his back to the sudden arrivals, continued to mutter to himself, "Dad, I've told you basically everything that's happened. If you can hear me, nod your head." The patriarch's eyes remained shut, with no response. Rick took a deep breath. "If you can't hear me, there's nothing to be done. Since we've reached this point, we should settle this while you're still alive." Rick stood up and gestured for the others in the small cabin to sit. He stood alone at the front. The family has its rules. Those who harm the family's interests cannot be forgiven. "Big brother, do you have anything else to say?" "What interest did I harm? There isn't a single video online." The Reverend Wild was still being stubborn. Rick sighed. He didn't just have a stupid younger brother. He had a stupid older one, too. "All right, let's rephrase. Perhaps reward is a more appropriate word. On behalf of the family, I'm rewarding you with a 7-day trip to South America. As for when you leave, you could discuss it with Frank. What's the fucking difference between that and killing me?" The Reverend Wild looked at the silent Frank by the window, his voice urgent. "Frank, I've treated you well all these years." "Yeah, are you done?" "If you're done, let's go," Frank said, turning his head to him. The Reverend Wild sensed the resolute attitude of his two younger brothers. He let out a cold laugh. "Frank, you know how the rest of our younger brothers feel about me. If you two dare to touch me, your son will never be the heir in his life." The eldest uncle pointed at Rick. "So this is all Rick's scheme. If you kill me, it will affect your son. When he inherits the Miller family, how many obstacles do you think our brothers will put in his way?" The brothers the Reverend Wild was talking about were the fence-sitters. Given his age, these people were indeed his younger brothers. And his statement wasn't wrong. He was, after all, a true Miller, a blood relative to the fence-sitters. This was even evident at the family banquet. When they saw him present 2 fish, the fence-sitters dared to openly contradict Rick and allocate $2 million to Leo. "You son of a bitch." Frank stood up and charged at his older brother. It took Winston Shung to hold him back. Rick also shook his head. Whether it was a divisive tactic or something else, the problem was real. You could kill the Reverend Wild, but that would also be cutting off Leo's path to inheritance. The fence-sitters were the backbone of the Miller family's various industries. If Leo wanted to inherit the family, he couldn't afford to offend them. That's why evidence was needed. This world is just that messed up. The greatest purpose of evidence isn't to find the truth, but to make everything seem reasonable. "Frank, I'll leave it to you to handle." Rick didn't dwell on it. "If you want revenge, go get it. I'll give you this chance. If you don't want revenge for your son's sake, that's understandable too." Frank was caught in a dilemma. He knew that Leo didn't really care about inheriting the family business, but he had to ask for his son's opinion. The Reverend Wilde saw Frank's hesitation. A smile spread across his face, only to disappear in an instant, because in the rain, a blurry figure was jogging closer. It was Leo. The first thing Leo said when he came in was, "Uncle, stop smiling. I'm afraid you won't be able to handle the swing from great joy to great sorrow." Leo and Isabella entered the lakeside cabin together. He did only two things. One was to mock his uncle. The other was to toss a USB drive to Frank Miller. "Go have a meeting with those fence-sitters. Let's skip the family rules part and fast forward to the laws of the land part." As soon as Leo's voice sounded, everyone in the room shifted their gaze to the small USB drive. The most puzzled person was Rick. "So you really do have evidence?" "What else?" Leo retorted. "Where did you get it?" "The patriarch gave it to me," Leo said calmly. Edward Miller's expression was a picture. He secretly gave a thumbs up. The reason he had been on the phone with Leo the whole time was for this. Someone had to play along. The patriarch was so sick. How could he have the time to give him this thing? He didn't ask any more questions, but instead said in a deep voice, "Then let's have a general meeting. These matters need to be settled sooner or later." The Reverend Wilde, Edward Miller, sat there in a daze, not moving. It took him a long time to come to his senses. When he finally stood up and passed by the patriarch's bed, he didn't look back, nor did he say another word. But Rick spoke up. "Big brother, I don't know if you and Dad will ever see each other again. Kowtow before you go. He's your dad, not mine. Big brother, your actions are as foolish as they were 20 years ago. You're too impatient." "Impatient? If I'm not impatient, Leo will be walking all over me." "The patriarch could protect you for 20 years. He could protect you for another 20. Rick shook his head. "Big brother, the person who has been helping you on the outside all these years has always been Vincent Shum. So please, use your brain and think about why Leo's arranged marriage is with Willow Shum." Some words sound light, but their weight when spoken is anything but. Winston Shung and his daughter, sitting in the corner, looked up in disbelief at this, their eyes fixed on the elder Shung brother. Rick sighed and continued, "With the fence-sitters secretly funding you from the inside and Vincent Shung helping you from the outside, you were able to cause so much trouble. But the patriarch used the marriage alliance to push Leo up while pushing the timeline for revenge as far back as possible. After Leo takes over, he'll have to spend a lot of energy dealing with the fence-sitters internally. Externally, if he wants to touch you, he'll have to touch the Shung family as well. But Leo has a soft spot for women. Willow becomes his wife, and if she runs to him crying, it's more effective than anything. If you drag it out like that, it's enough for you to live out your old age in peace until you die." Rick said it all in one breath, then waved his hand and said no more. "A bunch of brainless morons. Let's just get this over with. I have a meeting tonight." On the eve of the family council, Rick and Leo had a conversation. A general meeting required Millers from all over to rush back. They had to wait. During this leisure time, Rick initiated a lakeside chat. "In 2 generations of the Miller family, only you and I have normal brains." Rick stood by the lake, stomped his foot, and casually shoved the USB drive into his pocket. "You little rascal, you probably didn't put anything good on that drive. I won't play it later. You have to play it. This is the evidence." Leo reached out and took the USB drive back. Rick looked at him with an "are you still pretending with me" expression. He had broadcast his entire conversation with the Reverend Wilde to Leo. He had fabricated a lie about evidence for his older brother. In reality, Leo had never sent any junk mail. It was just a mind game with the soon-to-be homeless uncle. He would intimidate, and Leo would produce some real evidence. A quick and clean solution. But Leo, unusually, didn't talk trash or retort. The thing in his hand really was evidence. He just calmly gazed at the fish occasionally leaping from the center of the lake. "Uncle Rick, you're not a smart man. And neither am I." Half an hour earlier, after meeting up, Leo and Isabella didn't go straight back to the Miller estate from the arena. Instead, under Leo's guidance, they drove to the small alley in front of the Cypress Lounge. Isabella held an umbrella as she and Leo got out of the car. "What are we doing here?" "Looking for something." Leo followed his memory, searching the wall, feeling for loose bricks along the wall's texture. "What is it?" Isabella followed behind him, confused. "Hold on a sec. My dead memories are being a little disobedient." Leo began to search his mind again, until he felt his hair being pulled. He opened his eyes in confusion and looked at the blue-eyed lady holding his head. "What are you doing? What did you say about your memories?" Oh, forgot to tell you. I remembered some things from the past." Leo shook her hand off and closed his eyes to search again. Was it the 6th row or the 16th? He was completely focused. But Isabella, holding the umbrella, did not look calm. The hand gripping the umbrella was trembling slightly. She wanted to fix her rain-dampened bangs, so she threw the umbrella down. Why did you throw the umbrella? My hair is a mess. You're holding the umbrella with your left hand. Can't you use your right hand to fix your hair? I forgot I have a right hand. I don't think your hair is a mess. I think your conscience is. You're the one with a guilty conscience. If you want to find something, find it. Isabella picked the umbrella back up, her eyes occasionally glancing towards the car. Maybe I should run. He remembered. Just like that. It's too sudden. Just so. Easily. He remembered. Isabella began a frantic memory rewind. But the more she rewound, the more she wanted to flee. No. I've just seen a glimmer of victory. If I run now, it's all over. And so, the blue-eyed girl began her confession, like someone facing a priest in a confessional. Leo, I was a bit harsh on you before, but you can understand, right? It was a sugar daddy relationship, after all. After saying this, she waited quietly for Leo's reply. The tone of her voice wasn't repentant, just stubborn. A die-hard tsundere is like that. Any explanation must be accompanied by a self-righteous reason. But Leo didn't have time to deal with her right now. He was still trying to figure out where the evidence was. The blue-eyed lady's heart sank. She feared the slightly improving situation would collapse again. No. Leo didn't accept my apology. She decided to confess a little more deeply. I know I used to speak very loudly, and I'd curse you out and throw all the work at you, but I paid you a lot of money. When Isabella heard his perfunctory reply, her heart sank further. She wanted to slap herself twice. I said it was a confession, and I'm still trying to reason with him. This kind of explanation alone probably wouldn't earn forgiveness. She had to go even deeper. She decided to confess a little more deeply. Leo, I admit that making you get up at 5 in the morning to cook was intentional. I was just a little jealous seeing you stay up late video calling with Summerlin. The word jealous was spoken like a mosquito's buzz, not even as loud as the raindrops hitting the umbrella. When Isabella heard his perfunctory reply, her heart sank further. She wanted to slap herself twice. I said it was a confession, and I'm still trying to reason with him. This kind of explanation alone probably wouldn't earn forgiveness. She had to go even deeper. Isabella steeled her heart, stomped her foot, and knew she had to pull out the big guns. Leo, remember that time you found my stockings in your backpack? I said you stole them and cursed you out. Actually, I put them there myself, because I peeked at your phone and saw you were planning to go out with Skylar Reed, and I wanted to deliberately ruin it for you. I know. Wait a minute. It took Leo a moment to react. He looked at Isabella in shock. You do something like that? You, with your big, innocent blue eyes. I knew you were only telling me the good parts of the story. Seeing Leo's reaction, Isabella's speech became smoother. Her tone gradually grew stronger. Leo, I didn't mean to look at your phone. It's just that one day, I heard some, moaning sound from your room, and I thought you were watching porn. So I secretly checked your phone's browsing history and, sure enough, found some bookmark sites. Then I deleted all of them. That's going a little too far. But I compensated you, didn't I? Don't you remember I posted on my Instagram story that day? A story only you could see. Is that the kind of person you think I am? Isabella thought for a moment and nodded very honestly. Doing that kind of thing too much is bad for your health. I was just advising you to have a healthy release. Finding reasons was something that would likely follow Isabella for the rest of her life. Thank you. Can you please not bother me right now? I admit my mistake. I was actually trying to seduce you. I know. Leo once again started searching along the wall's texture. He moved a half brick and took out a USB drive from the gap. This is it. How is there another USB drive? Isabella looked at the scene before her, completely bewildered. This one has the real evidence. Where did you get it? The patriarch gave it to me. Leo turned and surveyed the spot. In terms of hiding places, it wasn't outstanding, but it was the place that appeared most frequently in the video diaries he'd recorded. Every time I got drunk, I would record a video for Summer Lynn right here. She wouldn't search brick by brick, would she? I never intended for anyone to find it. I just didn't know where to put it, so I casually put it here. Leo shook his head. If he died, the existence of this evidence wouldn't matter. As for why he didn't leave more clues. Damn it, Leo had considered that he might die, but he never thought he would lose his memory. Who could have imagined that? Leo, have you really remembered everything? Isabella was clearly still hung up on the memory recovery issue. Apparently, their year of living together held many more explosive revelations waiting to be unearthed. Leo looked at her with interest. He hadn't remembered a damn thing. Besides Peyton, everyone else was still a blur in his mind. Don't worry, I haven't remembered the parts about you. Isabella turned and stared into his eyes, her expression like that of an enraged lioness. You're lying to me. I never said I remembered you. Everything I just said was just to tease you, okay? Well, not all of it was fake, just saying it for fun. Isabella explained with a cold face. Seeing his expression earlier, he probably hadn't been listening carefully. He shouldn't remember, right? Oh, so you weren't jealous, you didn't secretly put stockings in my backpack, and you didn't delete my... I command you to forget it right now. It's easy to forget the past. Forgetting the present is a bit harder. Looking at Leo's expression, Isabella felt like ants were crawling all over her. She shifted her stockinged legs restlessly and finally changed the subject. So who did you actually remember? Peyton. Leo recounted the story of what had just happened, even sharing some of his own memories. This was met with silence from the blue-eyed lady. You're going to take care of her for the rest of her life? For now. I'm just responsible for her hospitalization and recovery. Who knows? Maybe she'll want to fly far away, find a quiet place to start over. What if she wants to stay with you for the rest of her life? If she stays with me, it's my gain. She's an entrepreneur, after all. You could put her in any position and she'd shine. Leo leaned against the wall, not shying away from these topics. Some things had to be said sooner or later. Better to say them now. Some things really are pushed along by fate. Even if Peyton hadn't taken that knife, Leo probably would have been fine. Objectively speaking, no one saved anyone's life. But subjectively, Leo had a lot of thoughts. You can't ignore a woman's willingness to take a knife for you, especially at this juncture when lost memories were slowly flashing through his mind. Leo got a more three-dimensional Peyton. He could make a judgment based entirely on his own thoughts, without needing to hear stories from others, speculations, or anyone else's opinions. It was the same as before. He didn't need others' opinions. He only needed his own. The reason for Peyton's constant talk of redemption also surfaced in Leo's brain. He remembered what she was atoning for, but he didn't want to bring it up, because he had forgiven her. Leo felt there was something he had to say to Isabella. He had wanted to say it in the past, but he had no proof, so it would have lacked credibility. Now he could say it. Leo took the umbrella from the blue-eyed girl's hand and smoothed her damp bangs. Isabella, there's no need to be hung up on the past. I can understand that your secrecy was out of fear of losing something. But I'm not recovering my memory to play the victim and hold the past over your head. I'm doing it so I can finally forgive. Once the evidence was in hand, the rest could be left to the Miller brothers to handle. Leo, can you guarantee this evidence is real? Absolutely. All right, I owe you one for this, Rick said solemnly. Leo waved his hand and asked a very crucial question. Resolving these matters before the patriarch dies doesn't align with your original goal. I want to ask why you guided our uncle to make a move. Leo didn't phrase it too harshly. The reason the Reverend Wilde was so anxious was entirely because of Ethan's change, and all of that was due to Rick's guidance. Simply put, he was using his own son as bait. Those old brothers of mine weren't content to just sit on the fence. They were getting too jumpy. I had to find an opportunity to clean them up. So the matter with our uncle never even registered on your radar? A farce, that's all. Was it worth using your own son as bait? It was, because being punished by the law is the best and only outcome for him. I have no objections. Of course, Leo had no objections. He didn't care how his uncle was dealt with. Either way, he wouldn't have it easy after leaving the country. Rick said nothing, just turned and left with his hands behind his back. The meeting would take a long time. So Leo took the opportunity to see Willow shung. Seeing her again, Leo's expression was a bit complicated. Willow's expression was even more complicated. So now can you explain to me your plan that's abstract enough to fool the trisolar ants? Leo sat under a large umbrella by the lake, skipping pebbles across the water's surface. Willow squatted beside him timidly, asking nervously, "Can I first ask if you've recovered your memory?" "Partially. Then, are you willing to be with them?" Willow's expression was tense, like a bench warmer watching a teammate take a game-winning shot at the last second. Leo didn't press, but instead said directly, "I actually have something to discuss with you. My cousin's fiancée, Peyton, she's injured and has nowhere to go. She might be staying with me from now on." Although Peyton hadn't mentioned her future plans, Leo figured she would most likely stick with him. Is she seriously injured? No major issues, just needs some time to recover. Oh. Then can I ask, did you make this decision because you recovered your memory? Leo scratched his head, unsure how to answer. That was part of the reason, he supposed. So he could only give a general reply. I guess so. Yay. Making a V sign is a universal move for cute girls, and it was also the favorite celebration method of the best friend duo, Skylar and Willow. But unlike Skylar's enthusiastic cheers, which were suitable for shouting at a victory party, Willow's yay was much quieter. It was more like a small villain, after a victory, pulling down their hood and secretly making a V sign in a corner. You're saying yay to this? No, I'm not saying it because she's hurt. It's because my guess was right. And so, Leo tried to guess Willow's thoughts. I actually just want to maintain the status quo. Willow tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, her voice filled with pride and happiness, as if she had already won the world. Leo, I'm sorry I've delayed so many of your plans. Tell me more about maintaining the status quo. Leo shook his head, ignoring the apology. Clearly, he was more interested in the so-called status quo. Seeing Leo's curiosity, Willow couldn't suppress her smile, tilting her head to the side. It felt like the student who always came in last was suddenly being looked at with admiration by the teacher. I actually knew that if we maintained the status quo, our relationship would definitely get better and better, slowly warming up. Willow was beaming. A fool could see that, right? But I was afraid that things wouldn't stay so calm. Willow was clearly referring to the matter of his memory recovery. So I thought, what exactly is the status quo? To be precise, I don't know. But I know one thing. Since I was your fiancé before you recovered your memory, I have to be your fiancé after you recover your memory. That can't be wrong. Some things, you couldn't blame her for not telling Leo beforehand. If she had, Leo wouldn't have been able to give her a definitive answer. He could only tell her not to worry, but he wouldn't have given her any promises. Because even Leo himself didn't know what kind of behemoths were hiding in his lost memories. Everything was an unknown, just like now. So Willow thought it over and decided she had to take matters in her own hands. She had to burn her bridges. She had hesitated in front of the mirror for a long time, playing rock, paper, scissors with her reflection. In the end, she chose the path of darkness. This was the real world. Turning to the dark side didn't grant you any buffs. The only thing it could give you was courage. The rest was easy to explain. Willow was surprised to find that if she rushed the process, she could actually make it to the concert after the engagement dinner. So she had secretly asked Isabella beforehand. At the time, Isabella, upon hearing her plan, had said 4 very confused words. Are you insane? This is the only way I can maintain the status quo. But I could just go over tomorrow morning and take Leo away, completely ignoring your plan. Don't forget how you flaunted your engagement in front of me. Isabella held a deep grudge against Willow. Back in Riverbend Estates, Willow had put on a big show about the engagement in front of her. But Willow was prepared. Isabella, but you don't want someone else to snatch this position, do you? Why can't it be me? Isabella, but you just lost the battle. What did you call me? I mean, you just had a falling out with Leo? It will be very difficult to resolve in the short term. Willow rephrased gently. Isabella, unusually, didn't retort, waiting patiently for her to finish. Seeing it was effective, Willow continued her attack. So why not help me? After all, I'm the least threatening one. She could fool others with that line, but not Isabella. The fact that you can say that proves you're not a small threat. But Isabella, I'm already the weakest. A long silence followed on the phone. It was clear that although Isabella was very reluctant to admit it, she had to acknowledge one thing. This was, in the end, a battle among a group of strange women. And Willow really did seem to be the one with the lowest combat power. Fine, we'll do it your way. But let me remind you, an engagement between families is not like that of ordinary people. The resistance you'll face if you want to back out will be huge. Isabella's words were purely from the perspective of a family scion. She was even speaking from experience. After the elopement incident, even an independent spirit like her had faced immense pressure. Not to mention a young girl like Willow, born and raised in a family. I don't regret it. Willow was full of spirit in the guest room provided by the Miller family. Leo listened quietly as she spoke. He still didn't quite get it, because this plan sounded ridiculous no matter how he heard it. Willow, have you figured out the most crucial point? The decision of whether the engagement continues has always been in the patriarch's hands. Did holding engagement dinner matter? As long as the patriarch approved, the matter was settled whether they held it or not. Leo really didn't understand. Is there some kind of curse among your family science? Like if one party backs out after the engagement dinner, they get turned to dust. Willow remained silent, just shaking her head. Speak, you idiot. Leo really wanted to crack open her head and see what was inside. Only after we're engaged are we considered an approved engaged couple. So it's not enough for just the patriarch to approve. You have to get others to approve too. Because if Grandpa Miller passes away, you'll regret it. How could the old man die so soon? Leo's words trailed off, because he saw medical staff by the lake gesturing to him. He also heard the soft muttering of passing staff. Should we ring the bell now? Wait a little longer. When the bell tolls, someone is about to die. So for whom does the bell toll tonight? And who is worthy of having the bell tolled for them? It was precisely because Leo knew this that he looked at Willow in disbelief. You're a fortune-telling fairy. No, I'm not. Mentioning death always seemed to bring to mind a dark cave. Perhaps the place where a person's soul rests for eternity really is a void. The elderly often see strange things before they die, like deceased relatives and old friends standing by their bed, or someone urging them to hurry up and go. This weather-beaten old man didn't say anything mystical. Instead, he took off his respirator and, shedding his usual drowsy demeanor, sat up on the edge of the bed looking revitalized. "Leo, light me a cigarette. Should you be smoking?" Leo directed this question to the medical staff. But the patriarch interrupted. "Don't waste my last burst of energy. Smoke, smoke." The patriarch didn't ask for the bell to be rung, nor did he notify anyone else. At this final moment before death, only Leo and Willow stood before him. "When are you having a baby?" "We just got engaged. What's the hurry?" "The baby will be named Jiangbiandon." "Not a bad name." "Fine, Jiangbiandon it is." Leo didn't object, just smiled wryly and went along with the old man's wishes. "Did you get the evidence out?" "Got out." "Remembered everything?" "Not yet, but I've remembered the part about you." In his memories of Peyton, a large part was about the Miller family, including the old man in front of him. "Leo, in my life, I've done right by everyone except you. So I'm compensating you. Let's not talk about that for now. I'll go get Uncle Rick and the others." "No need." The patriarch shook his head, gesturing for the young couple to help him up. "Looking at them just pisses me off. Let me have some peace before I go. Uncle Edward, he might." "I know. Letting him live this long is the most I can do as a father." The patriarch's coughing had even lessened. He sat on the edge of the bed, gazing at the rain-beaten lake, occasionally taking deep breaths of the damp air. "A bunch of bastard kids, always thinking everything is my fault. When I was young, old Xin saved my life. I repaid them by bringing his 2 sons back and raising them as my own. Rick and Frank were capable, so I gave them every opportunity. I even let them compete for the position of the eldest. The eldest had a grudge and killed Frank's adoptive mother. But you tell me, could I really hand over my only biological son for that?" The patriarch shook his head. "No one has the right to resent me, because I built up the Miller family. Everyone eats from my bowl." The old man talked a lot, so much that Leo couldn't get a word in. "But you have the right to resent me, because Grandpa has only done you wrong." Leo, being the head of a large family, is a difficult thing. You not only have to meet the needs of the children in the family, but you also have to ask them what they want. "So, the thing you promised me before, does it still count?" The patriarch looked up, his eyes narrowed to a slit. "It counts," Leo nodded. As for what he had promised, that was a story from a few months ago. He had met the patriarch on his way home from work. He had just seen Peyton off when he was taken away by a black van. Yes, the same way he had been kidnapped last time. The grandfather and grandson had a long talk. The content of the talk was, do you choose to go far away with your mother and live a life without worries? At that time, Leo had already learned about the Miller family from Peyton. He also knew what a big shot this old man in front of him was. Leo's choice back then was simple. He shook his head and refused all temptation. To be honest, he was tempted, but I don't dare. That was Leo's thought. A person used to being poor, upon seeing a pie fall from the sky, their first thought is, check the filling for broken glass. No one could understand the deep look in the old man's eyes at that time. Anyway, he said, since you don't choose the path I've given you, I'll create an accident in a car crash, and you'll get a chance to return to the Miller family. Fine. You trust me? Of course. If you wanted to kill me, why would you go through all this trouble? Here's a USB drive. When you enter the Miller family and become the heir, you can pass judgment on your uncle. Why can't I judge him now? What's important isn't the judgment, but how you become the heir step by step. Consider it a trial for you. I don't want to be the heir, Leo said flatly. The patriarch laughed and cursed. Silly boy, the only way to have your destiny in your own hands is to climb up. Where's the end of the climb? There is no end. Then I'm not doing it. Do it or don't. I gave you a stable life, and you didn't want it. You chose another path. Then promise me 2 conditions, and I'll give you the evidence. First, be the heir. Second, have lots of children, but only the children you have with the woman I arrange for you can be the next generation's heir. Leo had actually agreed at the time. What's the harm in agreeing? In that situation, you'd be a fool not to. But now there was a problem. He glanced at Willow beside him. The wife the patriarch had chosen for him was standing right there. Should he agree or not? Do you agree? The patriarch wants us to have a lot of kids, Leo whispered to Willow. How many is a lot? The silly fairy was stumped by the question of a lot. Don't you think this is a bit disrespectful to women's rights? Leo coaxed. Then what should I do? Resist a little. It's not a good time for me to speak up. Willow said, oh, and timidly walked towards the patriarch. Grandpa Miller, can we have 2? I think 1 boy and 1 girl would be nice.